The Farmington Public Schools Board of Education on this Tuesday, May 7th, 2024. Mr. Rich, may we please have a roll call?
You may. Ms. Smith.
Here.
Ms. Fox.
Here.
Ms. Weems.
Present.
Ms. Heinrich.
Here.
Mr. Walker.
Here.
I myself am here. Dr. Blau.
I am also here.
You have a quorum.
Wonderful. Let us stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Do we have a motion for the approval of the agenda? Yes, Ms. Heinrich.
I move that the agenda for the regular meeting of the Board of Education, Tuesday, May 7th, 2024, be approved as presented.
Support.
Yes.
Is there any way we could amend the agenda for, we have a community member that wanted the agenda amended for discussion later on pertaining to resolution, but I am supporting Ms. Heinrich.
Ask for
Okay.
discussion.
Oh, yes, so let me ask for discussion, and we can amend it, okay?
Thank you.
So, motion by Ms. Heinrich, seconded by Ms. Smith. Is there any discussion?
Smith wants to discuss.
Yeah, discussion. We received an email from Mr. Lubaway, and I guess he wants us to talk about and have discussion around his resolution that he has. I'm not saying we have to pass anything. I'm just saying, is there any way that we can have some discussion around him wanting us to talk about what his resolution is? I'm not saying we're going to do no resolution tonight.
Yeah.
Right.
I think that what we're approving are the minutes of the meeting that was already held, and
No, we're not.
I'm sorry, we're putting
This the new,
So she wants to add something.
I see, you want to add something to the agenda?
right.
Sorry. Long day. So, yes.
So I definitely understand that. I would prefer if we were to be discussing that, I would like that to be on the agenda ahead of time so that we have time to prepare.
Or can we put it on the agenda for next meeting?
We can definitely have Dr. Blau and Ms. Heinrich and Dr. Delgado.
Discuss it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Yeah, definitely.
So,
That's-
and we can discuss it also further.
okay.
So-
Well, let's pass
Awesome.
that agenda.
Okay.
That's a good point, Zach, so that we can,
You can have a conversation around it when you have your meeting to do the agenda for the next meeting.
Exactly. And then all of us will know that it's coming up, so we'll have an opportunity to review those materials ahead of time. Okay?
Thank you.
Awesome. All right, so we have a motion by Ms. Heinrich to approve the agenda, seconded by Ms. Smith. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes. Okay. All right, we have a lot to share this evening. The day following our last board meeting was the behind-the-scenes at the Capitol Day for school board members throughout the state of Michigan. And I had attended on behalf of our board back in the fall, and I attended again 2 weeks ago tomorrow. One of the things that we have been trying to accomplish in our district through a variety of initiatives is to fully prepare our students for successful lives and careers in the 21st century. Even though our current state of Michigan skill and content standards were developed 20-some years ago based upon what we thought life and career in the 21st century might require. So I had an opportunity to once again make a pitch to some of our representatives and senators around, could we please update our skill and content standards? Because now, 25 years into the 21st century, we have a much clearer idea of what skills and content our students actually need in order to be successful in the century in which they will live out the bulk of their lives. There were mixed opinions from the legislators around this. However, there was unanimous support from the other school board members and superintendents who were in attendance. Big round of applause, and several individuals approached me afterwards to share that they too, in their school districts, are trying their hardest to innovate despite the restrictions of the existing outdated skill and content standards, along with the current standardized testing mechanisms that are used for tracking and reporting student learning growth from year to year. A number of individuals from other school districts approached me and said, you should start a task force. So I started a task force called the Next Gen Education Task Force, and any educators and superintendents and other people, teachers who are doing the kind of work that we here in Farmington are already doing. We spent a year around authentic tasks, and then a year around positioning and noticing and redesigning our middle schools to enable teachers and students to be more flexible and interdisciplinary and collaborative. We also have, and we'll be hearing tonight from the Urban Learning Institute about the powerful new learning modalities that have emerged at many of our schools throughout our grade levels as a result of the proof of concept work that many of our teachers have been engaging in with Dr. Leah McConaughey. So we and others, and not just in Michigan, at the recent NSBA conference, National School Board Association conference in New Orleans, we heard presentations from school districts all over the country, New Mexico, New Hampshire, Texas, Oklahoma. There are lots and lots of districts who are doing what we are doing here in Farmington. We are forging ahead to provide our students with a world-class 21st century education, even though some of our state institutions are a bit behind. So that's very exciting work, and it's good to know that we're in good company with other districts in the state and throughout the country. I also would like to draw attention to some materials that Dr. Delgado shared with us at our last board meeting. A very thorough description of our expectations for teachers, staff, and substitutes, as well as our expectations of our students in terms of our behavior and conduct. Copies of this are on the back table. And also a back and a front, a sheet that describes in detail the many strategic initiatives in place, our ongoing work to related to diversity, equity, and inclusion. I learned today that hopefully at our upcoming retreat in June, our board will engage in our own DEI training, which is something that Ms. Heinrich and others have been encouraging for a long time now, so we're looking forward to that. And glad that all of our colleagues here will be participating. I have an invitation here to the Memorial Day Parade, colleagues, so I'll share that information with you later. And finally, on our agenda, there is a discussion item this evening entitled Board Policies, Operating Procedures, and Collaboration. And I wanted to share that the primary objective of this discussion is to acknowledge to the community that we recognize there has been a breakdown in collaboration among us here at the board table, and to then brainstorm together and agree upon some things that we as a board can do to get ourselves back to a place where all 7 of us are working together for the benefit of the students that we serve. This level of collaboration has been a priority of ours since we first began working together 3 years ago, and has remained a priority for us, as evidenced by our ongoing commitment to and participation in our quarterly team building retreats. Please keep in mind, colleagues, that just because the pitcher throws the ball doesn't mean the batter has to swing. Just let the bad pitches sail right past you. Let them go, breathe deeply, and remain calm as we focus on our mission to bring all 7 of us back to the table. I suspect there may be times tonight during our discussion when it will be difficult to maintain civility in our discourse. Know that our community is listening and watching. Our students are listening and watching. Our faculty and staff are listening and watching, and other districts are also listening and watching. We, 7, have a powerful opportunity tonight to model the very civil discourse we have been encouraging our community to engage in through the community dialogues we have hosted over these past 2 years. I hope that each of us succeed in maintaining this high standard of respectful dialogue and composure, despite any turbulence or negativity that might be expressed during our discussion. I am so very honored to work together with each of you, and I remain confident that our commitment to collaboration, civil discourse, our students, and one another will provide us with the strength we need to have a productive discussion this evening that yields positive strategies for moving forward. All right, thank you. Items from the Secretary. Mr. Rich.
Thank you. The board has received communications regarding Home at Head Start with Director Garvin, not increasing the minimum fund equity balance from 10% to 12%, the value of school staff, body cameras for teachers and other staff, standards-based grading for 2023 through 2024, and strategies to promote the mental health and well-being of children, families, and the early care and education workforce from the Office of Head Start. The board acknowledges communications and responds when appropriate. A list of correspondence can be found in the board packet, accessible on the Farmington Public Schools website.
Thank you. Mr. Rich, our legislative update.
Thank you. So just a few things. First is looking at the state's current move with the kindergarten mandate, which not only focuses on kindergarten, and mandating that all children who turn 5 by September 1st of the year must enroll in kindergarten, but also mandates that every district that offers first grade must also offer kindergarten. So while that's not necessarily an issue here, that's just something to see across the board and across the state. A few other things is the cardiac response plan requirements, so House Bills 5527 and 5528, which modify and expand the cardiac emergency response plans for schools. We in the district we actually had a presentation on this earlier this school year. Our district is well on track on this already and are at the forefront of that. And so, well, again, it's the state catching up to where Farmington Public Schools already is. The other thing I just wanted to say, last two things, is the school library mandate. There's currently hearings right now and requiring of at least one half-time librarians, while a building of 1,500 students or more would require to have at least 2 full-time librarians. And while having media specialists is so extremely important, the issue comes about when these mandates aren't funded. And so that's a big issue with the state, is they're saying we must have this, but don't provide any such resources to make sure that this is available and something that districts can do. And while we here in Farmington might be, be able to maybe move money around to do this, that also means there are other districts that are just not close to as well put together as this district, and that can be a large issue. And so we're potentially going to be seeing some pushback from districts across the state on this. And then lastly is just, of course, we're still looking at what's coming up right now with, looking at the school budget. And so right now we're just kind of waiting to see how the House, Senate, and governor's budgets kind of get put together. There's a lot right now looking at retirement plans and how that's actually funded. And so while there's some mandating one thing with 3.5%, it's now how do districts do this? And again, more unfunded mandates. We need to make sure that we are supporting our staff, making sure that we are supporting our students. And so that's something that we will see as it comes together more and more.
Yes.
Can I ask a question? As far as funding and mandating, like, what was the name of the group that sponsored when we went to Washington, the Michigan something, as far as we had our talking points and things with that?
Are you talking about the K-12 Alliance?
The K-12 Alliance, okay. So my question is, you know, the K-12 Alliance is pushing for special education funding and different things. So these mandates for school librarians and the mandates for, you know, requiring kindergarten, is that on their radar in order to
It
push
is.
for funding for that? And is that something that our government relations committees, and that's something that we're lobbying for? Like when you went for your behind the scenes at the Capitol, did you lobby for funding for that?
Yep, it is, and that's something that both Michigan Association of School Boards and K-12 Alliance, which isn't just the school boards, but also superintendents and other groups together, are working on right now and trying to figure out ways to best get these initiatives forward while also making sure that they can be paid for.
So is there anything that we can do in Farmington, or just what we're doing right now?
At this point right now, you know, we have been very active, not only through MASB and our lobbying, but also with our partnership with K-12 Alliance on these things. So
Okay.
at this point in time, we're pushing on making sure that this legislation, if passed, has funding mechanisms for it. And it's not just you must do this. So it's not a similar situation with IDEA funding. So
Right. Should we be writing letters?
Not yet.
Not right now.
Not
No.
yet? Okay.
Nope, it's something that, you know, we have people that are working on this behind the scenes as well.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Rich. Okay, moving on to district updates, Dr. Delgado.
Thank you, Dr. Blau. Good evening, Board, and to our community. Just to comment on the legislative piece, we are partnering with K-12 Alliance. There's a Lansing Advocacy Day coming up very soon, and pushing for not only the funding, but the opportunity to really rethink the way we fund public schools. We have an opportunity with the retirement system contribution that could be a permanent structural change. So we're really pushing for that. And then the other piece is that, you know, without exerting a lot of time to possibilities, we try to have some proactive conversations about what if these pass, what would it look like in our building. So administratively, we're having some of those conversations as well. So it's my pleasure every time I have an opportunity for a superintendent's update to celebrate so many of the ways that our children, our young people can find a place in their schools, to find purpose and find success. And we are not absent of success, so our kids continue to thrive. We just had a report that the North Farmington Engineering and Architecture students competed in the MITES Regional. The MITES is the Michigan Industrial and Technology Education Society. Once again, North Farmington students did exceptionally well. We had 17 students rank first place, 4 and second, 2 and third, and 2 and fourth. All the projects that were ranked 1 through 4 move on to states next weekend, which is this weekend, in Gaylord. Too many students to name, but just some of the categories that we had first, second, third, or fourth place in were categories like innovations or inventions, biotechnology activity to create a handicap device, interior design boards, architectural models, open frame models, manual CAD render, interior design, 3D printed toys and games, static assembly, laser cut projects. And so these are all incredible things that our young people are doing, and they're thriving and they're succeeding at. So congratulations to all of those kids, as well as our wonderful instructional lead, our CTE-IL, Amy Porter. So we appreciate all of your effort in making that yet another opportunity for our students to find success. Also, our Falcon DECA team continues to find success. Special shout out to Makash Gina and Sai Hasini Bogi, who earned a first place medal for their case study and placed top 10 internationally in travel and tourism team decision making. Also, Vijay Nanapuraju and Samarth Punjala, who earned a first place medal from their case study and placed top 20 in buying and merchandising team decision making. So once again, excellent. Nina Merget and her team and the whole Falcon DECA team, we appreciate you. We're very proud of you when you go out and represent Farmington Public Schools. But wait, there's more. Esports, yes, we have esports. You saw at the winter sports, we had incredible athletic success this year, but we also have esports success. So we have state runners-up, and the name of our team is the Falcon Punch Super Smash Brothers Ultimate Team. And that consists of Ryan Ahmed, senior in the IB program, Madison Doctor, a junior, Jason Kozensky, a junior, and Delano Marinelli, who's a junior. They wanted to thank the Falcons Nest for decking them out. They had some Falcon swag as they represented us, but they went all the way to the esports state competition and are going head-to-head with last year's champions, Catholic Central. So another way for our young people to find incredible success. And so,
what is an e-sport?
it's our video gaming electronic competition.
I'm thinking, I didn't know.
And I'm not sure exactly what games they played, but they were up there. So congratulations to our esports. And then finally, I would be remiss if I didn't mention that this is Teacher Appreciation Week. And so we greatly appreciate everything that our teachers, our dedicated teachers, do on behalf of our students and their families. And so when I was thinking about what I might say to our teachers, I had an easy choice to make. I looked right on my wall to a plaque that I have that I see every single day. And it reminds me of the importance of teaching. And it's called The Essence of Teaching. And it has a picture of hands reaching to the sky. And it says, "What nobler profession than to touch the next generation? To see children hold your understanding in their eyes, your hope in their lives, your world in their hands. In their success, you find your own, and so to them, you give your all." And I so appreciate all that our teachers give every single day for our students. It's a wonderful district, in large part because of what you do for our kids and collaborate with our kids and with our families. So thank you to all of our teachers. And in the spirit of appreciation, I would like to say thank you and welcome to our newest member here, Miss Ramona Ray Mayberry, who is my brand new executive assistant and executive assistant to our Board of Education. This is her first board meeting with us, and we want to welcome you, Miss Mayberry, to the Board of Education. And that concludes my update.
Okay. Next, we have the FAAPN update. The Alpha Kappa Alpha folks are in the house.
I see Mr. Thomas Hall and the AKAs coming up.
Come on up. Welcome. So glad you're here this evening.
Thank you so much. I'm going to hand it over to the AKs first, and I'm going to come back and wrap up with the FAAPN update.
Okay.
Good evening. I would like to first just start by introducing the leadership members of our organization. Rochelle Prestage is our president, and the name of our organization is Sisters Soaring Together. We are all members of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated. Many of us have been members for many years, but have come together to form a brand new chapter servicing the Farmington area. And then our vice president of our organization is Kimberly Webb Horsley. I am Rashonda Knox, and I drew the short straw to speak with you this evening. But I am the co-chair for a committee who's named Uplift Our Local Community. So our whole purpose that our founders over 100 years ago came together was to be of service to all of mankind. And so we have been very fortunate and honored to serve not only in the Farmington School District, but we also support Livonia and Clarenceville as well. So before we take you through a quick presentation, I want to see if either our president or our vice president have anything additional that they would like to share about us before we take you through just some of the work that we've done in partnership with many of your board members and members of the school district.
Good evening. As she mentioned, my name is Rochelle Prestige, and I serve as the president of our group. And I just wanted to quickly thank you all for allowing us to partner with your schools. Thomas Hall has been excellent. We've been in the school since September at the kickoff of your tutoring program. And since then, we have had the opportunity to do a couple of very well-attended and very nice programs for your school. So this is just a part of what we're doing. We are outside of the schools, but this is obviously a very important part of the community. So we are just grateful and looking forward to seeing how we can partner in the future to continue to serve your children and just the overall Farmington community. So thank you.
Just to echo what Rochelle shared with you, it has been our honor, our absolute honor to work with your children. Just to see their growth since September has warmed our hearts. And we had the opportunity last week to go over to Farmington North with the Secretary of State and to watch the children there get a deeper understanding of how our local community and how our local government functions. So it's been our honor, and we look forward to serving this community for many, many, many more years in the future. Thank you for having us.
Next slide, please. What do I do? Oh, thank you. Excellent, excellent. Oh, that's even better. So, this event was really one that was near and dear to, thank you, Mr. Hall's heart in sponsoring a reading and literacy event. So we hosted this event back in March. Many of your board members attended and supported the event as guest readers. Superintendent Delgado, your assistant superintendent, she came and served as a guest reader as well. But then we also were able to partner with the Farmington Community Libraries, and so they came and they actually registered families on site. But what's most important is that the kids had fun and were able to see through a series of activities that were facilitated by members of our group that there is fun in reading. And so it followed tutoring because they had to do the work first, but then our event kicked off for 2 hours where we engaged them in many activities surrounding the importance of reading. The impact that we made at that one event, we actually donated over 500 books. Those were actually provided by members of our organization. We had 60 students and families that attended that event. And then again, just strengthening the partnership both with Farmington Public Schools, the Farmington African American Parent Network, and Farmington Community Libraries. So we tutor every Saturday. It's been a gift to us that we've been able to serve in this way and form relationships and bonds with many of your students. We have a lot that have come and repeat and ask for us. So that's been great seeing their growth, as Kimberly Webb Horsley mentioned. So this Saturday is actually our last Saturday with them for this school year. Some other events that we have sponsored in your community. Last Saturday, we held Civil Rights 101, where we had representative from the Michigan Department of Civil Rights came in and not only spoke to parents, but also members of the community were invited to attend that event as well. And it was very well attended, and we had some very engaging discussions surrounding our civil rights and services available through the Michigan Department of Civil Rights. Some other events that we held throughout the year, we adopted families through Farmington School District. Mr. Hull provided through FAAPN some referrals to us, some families that were in need. And so we were able to adopt 3 families throughout the Christmas season and provide not only some things that were on the children's wish list, but also some other donations to help families in need. We donated coats to the Caustic Center this past season as well. Another one that I will mention that I don't have listed here is during the month of February, we hosted Pink Goes Red, which was in honor of Heart Health Month. We are so fortunate to have physicians that are part of our membership. So on site, they perform blood pressure checks and at no cost, they were able to give consultations to people and refer them to their doctors if needed. So that was another event where we were able to service not only your student community, but the community at large. Coming up, we're still working. During the month of May, we are assembling donations to Yvonne's Treasures, which is the gift shop located inside the Costick Center. All proceeds will benefit senior programs in the Farmington community. And that concludes that portion of our report. Yes.
Okay, real quick, just so you know, I think Kimberly mentioned the Secretary of State was at North Farmington. One of your students interviewed her, did a wonderful interview to learn about her background, and it's on YouTube if you would like to go see it. But it was a great experience for the students and for the Secretary. So I would encourage you to watch that video. Okay, thank you.
Okay, I'd like to thank the AKs. They have been a much-needed blessing for our community. And I'd like to thank, actually, how I met the AKs was Donald Walker. He went in here and said, hey, I got some people that want to help out. I was like, okay. So he said, here, call this number. I called the number, and then I got they came in like droves. I was like, whoa. So, it's one of those things that I'm a firm believer that if you do good, good will come. The needed help will actually come, and it took a lot of load off of us as an organization and also organizing a lot of our programs. And I thank you for them, for their contributions. So with FAAPN, I'm just going to wrap up. What's happening with FAAPN? This is a brief synopsis of what we did over the past several months. That our mission statement is to opportunity to influence the decisions and impact the success of our students. Here's our couple of things that we've done that the sisters actually reiterated, but one of our items that we had was a SAT-AC boot camp. We did twice this year for the school year, one in November, another one that's in February. We was at capacity for what we have for both sessions, and with that was amazing. In which that I know my son, he was kind of like, I won't say lackadaisical, but not motivated. Didn't understand how with college and everything. And then he went there, and he's told me, he's like, Dad, I gotta get busy. I was like, yeah, you do. And so that kind of sparked that did spark a urgency for him, and how realistic it is to not just go to college, but actually strive and get a scholarship through them for that. So I thank exam experts for doing the programming. It was excellent. I thank Farmington Education Foundation for help sponsoring with the grants. And we plan on doing a few of them the following years as well. Along with that, in I want to say the first part of either late September or early October, we're going to have early application help for college, filling out college applications in end of September or so. So look forward to that. Just like the AK said, with the reading celebration, we have a couple of photos from the celebration. Ms. Fox donned her cat in the hat, Dr. Seuss outfit, which was very, very, very festive for the time. I thank for all the readers here, the administrators, and I mean it was well intended. I got to say it was very well done, and a lot of great positive feedback. The next one was that we just had in April, chatting with the Chief of Police. I'd like to thank Chief King for reaching out. And Andy Smith for helping us coordinate everything together for us to actually meet with the kids. And we was kind of short on volunteers to help tutor. So the chief said, hey, I can tutor, but not that high of a level. I said, all right, come on. And so, so there's a couple of pictures of him helping out students tutoring, which was like a great community involvement in which that the police officers are now starting to establish a relationship with kids, because we had one kid, which kind of like, tugged on my heartstrings, that at first he was, the chief came in with all the brass and all that stuff and everything, and he was very frightened of the police. He said, I'm afraid of the police. He's like a 5-6-year-old kid. Mm-hmm. And so we said, okay, we can hang out back here while we just, have, we come up front and have a chat with like a little circle or whatever with the chief, as you can see, in which he's just on their levels, talking with them and everything. And while the program was, the chief was chatting, you can see the little boy just inch closer and closer and closer to the chief. And so he finally asked a question, and then the chief said, hey, you want a badge? And he said, yeah, I want a badge. So the chief said, I'll let you borrow my badge. He actually took off his badge, and he never ever did this before, ever. Took off his badge and let the kid borrow for the remaining of the session. And so the kid had a little badge on and everything. It was pretty cool,
awesome.
And then after we left, there was a couple kids that were yelling, that was kind of like cheering and saying, wow, I'm no longer afraid of the police. And I was like, wow, and just that is an impact, because everybody should have a relationship with their local police department. And just like so the next, like the sister said, that Civil Rights 101 came, Michigan State Department for Civil Rights, they came and was very, very helpful, and with a lot of their information, and we plan on having them back because it was so much of a demand for the information they had. Also, with tutoring, as our tutoring is evolved, I had to say, I'm very, I don't know what we created here, but it seemed like the tutoring is like the utopia of how society should be, right? Because we got all this outside things that's happening, which, we got Republican, we got Democrat, we got, what's happening over in the Middle East and everything like that. But it seemed like when we right here at tutoring, all that's out the door, and it feels great, because you actually see, one kid who's on the other side of a, probably a different school of thought is tutoring another kid. And it just doesn't matter. So, and we try to keep that space very pure into what's there. So, with our tutoring program, we've been very successful, and a demand out for it, that people come and love it. The last day of tutoring is this Saturday coming up, May 11th. And from there, then we're going to start in the fall, so just look out for that. And a couple of things that we have accomplished during this school year that we were actually going to be pushing off or having next year coming up, like different resources for parents, was a lot of people ask for, like the IEPs and what does that mean, the 504s, just different resources that's available, along with internships, summer schools, different programs that are out there for us. And I have been getting phone calls of people who want to present, library and everything like that. So, we're good. We're excited for next year. And any kind of questions or comments or?
Ms. Smith?
I want to thank each and every one of those, your backup singers back there, Mr. Hall. I have a very good relationship with all those young ladies back there. It has been a pleasure to have you come out into the community and work. Growing up, it was always a village. And as Thomas has stated, everything that we have been going through, not only in this community, but in this country, that all went out the door. You saw a lot of people come in and tutor. You had, the AKAs were just, all you saw was green and pink. I'm starting to like that color. But at the end of the day, you all have done not only a great job with mentoring and working with the students, but you've made great relationships with many of us. You brought in Marcellus, the author, which I have adopted as my own little nephew, and have reached out to him and spoken to him several times. Saturday was epic. Talking with the civil rights people to know what our rights are, not only for the students, but us as individuals. You all are beautiful, but you're firm and you're friendly. And that makes that's a big, huge difference. The reading, the Secretary of State, I did not go over, I did go over after because with the voting registration, because I am working on that, so I did not interfere with what was going on. That was not our job to be involved in that. But the main thing that we were proud of was all of you being there, women working together to help these students, working to collaborate with our district and having that sisterhood, no pun intended. But at the end of the day, watching all of you do the work that you did, and as Thomas stated, we do have people that are afraid of our police. Just Saturday, I had an incident in another community. And if it were not for us having the kind of police officers and chiefs that we have, I would have had a different outlook on some things. But Jeff King did come in with Kevin Clark and a couple of other officers. And as a lot of the kids stated, they're no longer afraid. We had a lot of people come in and volunteer this year. T.R. Carr came, I thought he was tutoring, but I thought he was playing cards, if you want to ask me, some Uno. But the kids love seeing all of you, and they love that, you have humor to go along with what is going on. We still must tease Mr. Hull about the expiration on cookies and stuff and brownies, but thank you from the bottom of my heart for all. I won't be there this Saturday, but thank you, and I hope to see you next year. So thank you for everything that you have done in this community. I appreciate you so much.
Ms. Fox?
Well, well, well. I just want to also thank you with your consistency each and every Saturday, your commitment to tutoring all of these students, whether they are taking second grade all the way up through 12th grade. Most of you are highly educated, and you have used that education for our children. And I just want you to know that we appreciate you. We hope you stay with us as much as possible, or as long as possible. But all in all, I'd like to say thank you very much. And to FAAPN, I believe FAAPN is amazing. Thank you.
Yes, Mr. Walker.
I just want to say, first of all, to FAAPN, thank you so much for all the work that you guys continue to do for the community at large along the way. But to the ladies of Alpha Kappa, Alpha Sorority Incorporated, it was an honor to be able to pass your information along to Thomas. I know well the long history of community service and advocacy your organization will bring, the resources that you as a team will bring to this community are boundless. I've seen what happens when you guys mobilize, and it's pretty much get out of the way or get ran over. And so we look forward to that kind of positive energy being brought to not only FAAPN, but to the Farmington Public School District as a whole. Thank you so much for your desire to serve in this particular community. We greatly appreciate it.
Yes, Ms. Weems.
I don't want to repeat everything everyone else said, but I do want to offer my thank you as well, both to FAAPN and to the AKAs. I really appreciate everything that you do, and I have supported and appreciated FAAPN for a long time now. And to get back to what Mrs. Fox said about your consistency, first with FAAPN and you in particular, Mr. Hull, every Saturday for years. I can't tell you how much that is appreciated, and not just you, but a slew of volunteers consistently every week there for these kids and supporting these kids. I remember when we didn't have enough tutors. I remember starting a scholarship specifically to increase the number of tutors that we had, and that reminds me, I need you guys' help to go through some of those applications for me. Thank you. I really greatly appreciate the AKAs coming in, and I mean, in droves, I've seen you. I've attended that great event that you guys put on, and I just really appreciate your consistency as well in coming in and showing up for our kids every week. Thank you.
Yes, Ms. Heinrich.
Yeah, everything that everyone said, but the nice thing, it's nice to see, since I've been volunteering at FAAPN, just to see how you've grown. Every year you add additional programs, and you know, the hackbots are there consistently tutoring, which is a great. When they were at their competitions, there was a deficit in the room, and the AKAs really, you know, every week to be there and just the things you did. And I just want to highlight the test preparation. You know, I had 2 sessions of that, and for teenagers to roll out on a Saturday morning, I was impressed. I mean, the room was full. It was full to capacity, and to offer that service, because there's so many families that they don't have access to those resources or couldn't provide them, and so to be able to provide that. And so funding that you get and the support that you get, it's just wonderful, the things you do in the extra programs. So it's just evolved from more than just tutoring, and it takes a whole village, and you really have the whole village involved in this, so thank you.
There's nothing left for me to say. You took it all. Like all the things. Bravo. We congratulate you on the ongoing success of what you've created, Mr. Hull, with FAAPN, and thank you to the AKAs for joining us in this endeavor to support our kids in our community.
Next up for the district updates, we have the 2020 bond quarterly update, and I believe we have Scott Smith from Plant Moran here to walk us through. Welcome back.
Thank you. Good evening, Superintendent Delgado and members of the board. Thank you for having me this evening. I promise to be brief, but I will bring everybody up to speed with where we're at with the 2020 bond. Things are going really well. Hard to believe it was January when we were last here, so 4 months almost have passed, and we want to give an update heading into the summer. And then we do plan to be back here in the fall to show you pictures of all the great things that happened over the summer. This is just a pie chart, really, that shows how the bond was allocated, consistently shown you each time we come up, but it does go to support many things across the district. Here's our funding and expenditure summary. This looks almost identical to January, with the exception of the $129,000 that we received from an insurance proceed related to the new visions that has been deposited into the bond. Our commitments now are roughly $81,000, and our budget remaining to be allocated is around $24 million. And our expenditures to date now are almost $69 million. This is as of the end of April 2024. Looking at this in a little more depth, again, our budget here on the left of 105, almost 106 million, our commitments of 81 million, that is up roughly about $9 million since January, and that mostly represents the construction costs of recommended in bid packs number 11 and 12. Our actual approved are almost 69 million. That is up roughly $5 million since January. These tend to be a little bit slower in terms of the months. Not a lot of construction is occurring outside of the school time, although we have been able to successfully complete some work. It's just not the same volume that is typically done in the summer. Our cost to complete is just under 13 million. Our forecasted commitments are just over 22 million. Construction-wise, we have about 6 million, and then really a large chunk of that is on the technology side, We're about halfway through that budget at this time. Our reserve, our owner's contingency, remains consistent from January, roughly $2.2 million, consisting of around $500,000 in bid savings and $1.7 million in true owner's contingency. Yep, everything is on target at the moment. So we do have a busy summer coming up this year in Farmington. We are going to be at, as you can see, a great number of buildings. Some more involved than others. At North Farmington, we have a little bit of work that's still to be completed from this past summer. We have a generator that's going to be installed. We're doing some work in the gym, and we're also doing a little bit of work in the front offices. At Kenbrook, again, some carryover work from this past summer due to a late arriving generator that will be installed this summer. We'll be updating the gas service to the building as well. Currently ongoing right now is Bid Pack 10, which is the new central offices at the old Visions location. I'll show some pictures later in the slide for that to kind of show progress to date. Also with that bid pack are two smaller kitchen upgrades over at Lanigan Elementary School and Farmington High School. We have a major renovation over at Warner Middle School. Large part of that is mechanical upgrades, which have actually already started as well. Farmington Central is going to receive some upgrades interior to the building. Also some parking lot improvements as well. Some improvements to the Early Childhood Center, which really are in the older wing that did not get done with the last bond. So we'll bring that space up to par with the new. We're also going to be updating the main entrance at Farmington High School. And currently underway is the work over at STEAM Academy with the fire alarm upgrades that are part of Bid Pack 12. Again, all these projects most of them are ongoing at this time and will be completed over the summer. And lastly, we just kind of wanted to show everyone some progress here over at the old Visions, the new central office. Here's our new entrance. You can see we're creating a new window into that space, which gives improved visibility from kind of the reception area out into those that are coming up to the building. Some photos of the new lobby underway. The lower right picture is actually the old office area that's being converted to some offices for central leadership. Corridors, everything's tore up, just kind of a foreshadowing here, but not much is put together just yet. Most of the demolition is complete. We've got a lot of new walls completed. Paint is underway, ceilings, lighting, flooring will be soon, but you can kind of see some of the progress. We're creating new offices within the old classroom spaces. We're cutting up floors, running power to certain areas to facilitate some of the new furniture that will be installed in the building. For those that know the building, there was an old storage area off the back. That is actually now being converted and reclaimed within the building itself. So we're creating some improvements there to provide vision out. It's going to become a nice conference room for the central leadership team to host meetings. They will obviously now be temperature controlled, so we'll have cooling and heating in that space, which was previously unconditioned. We'll be updating the collaboration room and the lounge area as well. We'll also be, as part of this, the district educational center that's currently in the lower level of the central office will be relocating to this space as well. That's the upper left picture. We're creating some improvements to the toilet rooms, creating a safer environment for folks to come and go to and from the toilet rooms. The old kitchen in there is becoming storage for the district. And we've got a little bit of improvements there in the mechanical room too. Again, that project is ongoing. We're scheduled to be wrapping up that this summer. I think part of the presentation tonight is we'll be looking at some furniture for discussion. But again, looking forward to moving everybody over before the start of the school this coming fall. And then we're really kind of coming down into the last major design phase of the 2020 bond that's planned. So we have what we call Bid Packs 13, 14, and 15. Bid Pack 13 is a discussion item we previously had, but that's converting the current central office to more of a storage area, district storage. That project is currently out for bids. We'll be receiving those next week, and we'll be reviewing those with plans to take those before you guys for next month. As soon as we get everybody moved out, we'll plan to start that in the fall and hopefully be done before the end of the calendar year. Bid Pack 14 has been a lot of fun so far. We've had some very good conversations, but we're going to make some athletic improvements at both high schools. With respect to the scoreboards, we're looking at video scoreboards for both competition fields, updating the lighting on those fields, updating the sound system on those fields, adding lighting to the auxiliary fields as well. We're also looking at potentially updating some of the middle school scoreboards at the track areas, depending on how our budget analysis goes. Those were not originally contemplated, but something that is being considered. We are in design. We're having lots of conversations. We're looking at doing some field trips to see what other districts have done, gain some more perspective, and find the right fit for Farmington schools. Again, this plan is to be implemented next summer. And then the last project that we're working on is over at Transportation, what we're calling Bid Pack 15. We're looking to expand the service bay, which is necessary because of some increased lengths of the buses. And then probably the biggest thing you'll see from the road is we're going to improve the parking lot. We're going to be doing a lot of asphalt replacement at that parking lot next summer, so we'll be needing to find a place for those buses for a short period of time. Again, something we're in design on, something we'll be bidding out this fall and bringing to you after everybody returns from the summer. It's a summer 2025 project. Can I answer any questions?
Ms. Heinrich?
Yeah, I'm just looking at this, these last three bid packs, 13, 14, and 15. Is that the end? Will that, because you said there was 24,000 remaining. Is that going to be the end of the bond money, or are there additional bid packs coming up after that?
These are the major ones we have planned. There may be some plans for, depending on how that owner contingency fund looks like, and then we can have those conversations with the district on what might be the best uses once we know the firm costs. Of that 22 million, 6 million of it is really the construction, so half of the 22 is just technology programs that haven't yet been implemented that is anticipated to be spent. So yes, those are the major projects that are currently planned for the bond.
And just looking at this, I mean, I'm sure, like, you know, back in 2020 when these bonds were approved, all these surveys were done and the things that needed to do, but like technology is always changing. So have you had to like update and even I'm looking at the high school, you know, the scoreboards and things over the course of 4 years. Have there been changes or updates into what was originally planned, and have you had to make adjustments for those?
Yeah, and if you want to address the technology, as far as the scoreboards are concerned, those actually we had very limited funds initially set aside for those. This scope has probably grown, but it's something we've been able to take a closer look at now that we're further into the bond. We've achieved some savings and been, you know, collectively very successful in implementing the projects to date. There will be an integration with technology as it relates to that program. You know, all that has to tie into the press boxes, and we need to work together to do that. Technology has advanced. We're looking at different options for the size of the screens, for the resolution of the screens, and trying to find the right fit, again, that meets the objectives. So, yeah, we're trying to consider that. We're looking at extended warranties potentially for those systems too, you know, just so it gives you guys peace of mind for a few years, because technology does change and doesn't always work, and sometimes you need to address it.
Thank you.
And I'll just say too, Claudia, there's still about $1.7 million allocated for buses. Of that 24 million, there's still furniture money that hasn't been spent. And then technology outside of these three projects is still the biggest amount. And there is a plan for refresh of devices as we spend down those bond dollars.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, Ms. Ween? Oh, sorry, Ms. Smith, go ahead.
So the construction timeline is planned for summer of 2025 for the high school. You do know that that is the time for a marching band? And because I know you said you're doing some work, so will the marching band be able to practice as well as our football players? And I don't know who else is out there on the track and
These are things, yeah, for
whatever
sure that
sports.
we need to continue to have discussions at while we're in this design phase.
Okay.
So appreciate the insight, and those, we'll definitely want to know who has planned uses for those. The good news is we're not redoing the turf. We are in specific areas, so I suspect there's some latitude for that, but, you
I
know,
know
we need to
Ma-
coordinate with McCarthy and Smith a little bit too to make sure it's a safe and secure.
Right, because your
environment.
marching band does usually, if there is some work to be done, they will practice in the parking lot,
Okay.
which, you know, they've learned how to dart between cars. But our football players, that's my main concern as well.
Yeah, I think a lot of this work is on the peripheral. The lights should be on the
Okay.
corners of the field,
Yeah,
not
I just don't
executive
want
corners,
something,
but,
scoreboard or something coming over on, you know.
Yeah, for right now, we plan to put the scoreboards kind of where they're at currently.
Okay.
It seems to be a good fit from our discussions so far. Nothing's been finalized, but that is the plan and something we need to work through, and we'll definitely need the district's help in helping us
you.
find the right balance between activities and getting work done.
And thank you for your report. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Weems?
Yeah, just back to the amount remaining, it sounds like the whole 24 has been, you have a plan for the whole 24, with the exception of about 2 million in contingency, is that right?
Yes.
And I also heard that some of what is planned is for furniture that hasn't, but we don't have a plan for the furniture yet? No. We do have a plan for. Okay, because that kind of followed on to another discussion item that we have later on. And my wondering was around why there wasn't an opportunity to leverage some bond funding for that. And I'm guessing the reason is because there are commitments already for that funding. And do we have any sense for whether we're going to need all of that contingency and whether it might be used for this next furniture purchase rather than the general fund?
I can mention that. So Scott showed there was about $3.7 million allocated for furniture, fixtures, and equipment. So about 1.5 million of that purchased musical instruments and things for the music programs within all of our schools. So that left about 2.2 million, almost 2.3. Most of it, 2 million, is allocated to each of the school buildings to purchase flexible.
Thank you.
Yep.
Any other questions? Thank you so much.
Thank you all.
Okay, and our final district update for the evening is our proof of concept presentation. We have with us, Dr. Kelly Coffin will do the introductions, but we're pleased to have Urban Learning back, and Dr. McConaughey.
Yes, good evening, everyone. We are so excited to have Dr. Leah McConaughey here again, year 2, talking about some amazing learning experiences that have been happening across our entire district. So I am going to turn it over to Leah, and she has a great presentation for you, and we're happy to answer any questions you might have at the end of the presentation. Leah.
Thank you so much. It's so nice to see everybody again. Thank you to the board for your time, to Dr. Delgado, Dr. Coffin, Margaret Hendrickson, and really want to say I appreciate the opportunity to work with you again this year, especially the teachers, the coaches, the coordinators, the principals, all of the effort that is going into making this celebration in year 2 of the Farmington R&D journey. And so I want to start by just quickly referencing a teacher who I mentioned last year. Carrie is a 9th grade ELA teacher at Farmington High School, Carrie Ray. And she came into this room a year ago and said, you know, Leah, I almost didn't show up today because I don't have a story to tell. And we talked about how, you know what, everybody has a story to tell. And not only has Carrie gone on to tell her story here locally in Farmington, but this past January, she participated in sharing the story of Farmington Public Schools at the MASA conference. She also then went on to present to state legislators about the importance of this work. Somebody who a year ago said she doesn't have a story to tell is now advocating for this work at the state level. That is the power of storytelling. And as we think about the changes that we want to make, as we think about the innovation that we want to see, it needs to be rooted in how can we help more people share the incredible story of their work. So I want to do that update in 3 parts today. First, I want to remind you about what we're doing. What is the work? What does Innovate the Core mean? I'll then go into how are we diffusing this work throughout the district, and then most importantly, talk about how your district educators are starting to take real ownership of the work, and it's only year 2. So as we think about Innovate the Core, what does that mean? When we think about where students spend most of their time, and this is across the United States, 60% of the time that they spend in school is in their core classes: math, English, social studies, science. Yet when you look at most innovation in school, when you look at most school reform, it happens in the periphery. It happens in the after-school clubs and arts and electives classes and SEL and advisory, and it's important to make changes there. But it is truly important. We are not going to transform learning for our students if we are hearkening back to the same industrialized model of the 1900s, right? The early 1900s. We need to make changes to our core classes. And that's what we're doing. We are working with core content area teachers to better align the learning that students are doing to the profile of a learner that Farmington has. You have made a promise to the community as represented in this profile. And this work of investigations, this work of proof of concept, is supporting you to bring that to life. It's supporting you to fulfill your promise to the community. And it's doing so by putting teachers, this is a group from Lanigan Elementary, it's putting your teachers in the professional learning situations where they are investigating. They're growing, expressing, reflecting, innovating. And it is not always an easy process. There are lots of ups and lots of downs. It can be very bumpy, mirroring life, right? Mirroring how the real world operates. But in doing so, in putting your educators in these collegial situations, they are using the ALT model, which, as a quick reminder, is a very simple model, a simple framework for transforming learning through the strategic use of technology. And we're really focused on deepening the learning, making learning more rigorous, making it more authentic, focusing not just on students acquiring knowledge, but having them apply their knowledge to new, innovative, authentic situations. And so this framework has become, you'll see this framework repeated throughout some of these stories today. So I want to share a couple of examples. These are your first-year educators in this work, some of the things that they have. We've got a group of incredible fifth-grade teachers at Hillside Elementary, and they are working with their fifth-grade students, not just on learning ecosystems, but learning ecosystems and asking how can learning about them make us compassionate community members, aligning to your profile. And so students are identifying, brainstorming, what are some threats to the water quality, specifically to the Rouge River, which is in our backyard? How are we potentially able to protect and maintain our water resources? These students are learning about ecosystems by taking a field trip, learning from experts around how can we help the Rouge River, and then it's time to get to work. And so the students are driving this themselves. They are identifying what solutions they want to put in place to, again, not just regurgitate their understanding of ecosystems, but use that learning of ecosystems to actually have an impact in their community. And so they solicited donations from Home Depot that would allow them to put resources at the Rouge River so that people can pick up pollution, so to keep it less polluted. You had a group that created public service announcements. They put those public service announcements, you see the QR code on these stickers? These stickers are, your students were cold calling local businesses that have a connection to the Rouge River, saying, would you be able to help us build awareness by putting these stickers on pizza boxes? And you've got a local pizza shop that is willing to do that to help spread awareness of. This is how we as fifth graders can actually make a difference in our community. As Johnny said at the top, they want to have a big impact in Farmington Hills. And so how can we use our understanding of ecosystems, the content that we would have to learn anyway, but use it to do something positive for our community? So these were the phone calls to local businesses, and you actually had a young girl who facilitated her conversation or conducted her conversation with a Mexican restaurant, a local business, entirely in Spanish. And you had the rest of the group sitting there, then they couldn't understand what she was saying, and they were on pins and needles like, how did it go? How did it go? And then all of a sudden she throws her hands up in the air. They said yes. And so it's really empowering your students through learning the content, but it's learning the content as a way to bring the profile to life in the classroom. We've got Debbie Calanchi, who's here today. Debbie, can we give a shout out to Debbie Calanchi? Phenomenal, phenomenal 8th grade math teacher at East Middle School. And she is working with her students on how can gathering data make us empowered collaborators. Kids need to learn how to gather data, how to represent it in graphs, how to use those graphs and analyze it, but okay, to what end, to what purpose? And so instead of just having students learn how to do a box and whisker plot and learn how to do a line graph and learn X and Y axis, she's having her students learn all of that data to impact decisions that might change life for them at the middle school level. So you had a group looking at, might we have water with lunch instead of milk? Could we increase the variety of snacks? Could we increase the number of food options? So you had students collecting data, organically collecting data from students at East Middle School and then presenting that data to local official or local school members to try to make changes. You had another group of students who worked with the assistant principal, Tori Moss, at the school, and they are now getting food trucks. I believe on May 23rd, they were able to make that decision and make their case, state their case through the use of the data that they were learning to have some options with food trucks. And this one is the most impressive. This group talked about the importance of why they want water instead of milk. They created a presentation and they sent it off to the USDA. Have you gotten a response back yet, Debbie, from the USDA?
It's been a week. I sent a follow-up, and we still haven't heard back. Wow.
And that's okay, right? But it's the power of students being able to identify, these are the changes that we want to see. Let's collect the data and use that data to help us make a change. We've got Nicole Dale, 9th grade biology teacher at North Farmington. Students are learning about ecology and ecosystems, but again, not just focused on the content. How can we use that to become a resilient problem solver? So students at North Farmington are talking about how to combat food waste. They're raising public awareness through public service announcements. They're composting leftover food. They are meeting with facilities and school food to discuss how they can compost their food or donate their food. And it's the power of this conversation again. It's not just about what students know. It's about what they can do with what they know. They still need to learn the content, but the content needs to be purposeful, and your students are seeing that come to life in the classroom. And then last but not least, we have Terry and Asha, 2 incredible teachers from Farmington Central, looking at how can civics and algebra help make us strategic communicators. So the Farmington Central High School students, they recognized a difference in the portion sizes. They came to the teachers and said, we see a difference in portion sizes between Farmington Central and the other 2 high schools. They researched state and federal nutrition requirements. They created a school-wide survey. That's where the algebra comes in. They graphed the results, and they presented their findings. They discussed their findings with food services here in Farmington Public Schools, and small changes have been made. And I just want to say, Dr. Delgado, they gave you a special shout out as a thank you for helping to facilitate that conversation. They truly appreciated it. And so your students are seeing not just that I need to be learning this content and these skills, but I can actually use them as a tool to have an impact. All of those stories are being captured and put into an Innovate the Core website. So anytime we've got stories from last year, we have stories from this year. This room was mayhem several hours ago, I have to say, with everybody creating their stories. And shout out to Deb for helping to put this room back together. She's incredible. But we need to be sharing the stories. Farmington teachers are inspired by Farmington teachers doing this work. And so we're putting all of the stories together. We've got sample vignettes, little video vignettes, where teachers are talking about, principals, coaches are talking about. You've got Dawn saying, you know what, this work is hard, but I can do hard things. You have Lynn talking about how this effort is worth it because teachers want to hear from other Farmington teachers. And so all of the stories that we're collecting this year, that teachers are creating their own stories to showcase their work, all of those stories will be showcased here on the website. And as we think about that as a really powerful tool to help us diffuse. We don't just want to scale. We don't just want to copy and paste. That's not what innovation is. Innovation is how can we diffuse these ideas naturally, organically and driven by educators here in Farmington. Because as Dr. Vikram Patel says, he's a Harvard Medical School professor, and he says sustainability happens when you can build capacity in the community itself. You can't just have experts coming in all of the time. We need to support your teachers, your coaches, your principals to build that capacity in and of themselves. And so to talk about the diffusion last year in year one, I worked with 5 schools, so a small cohort of schools, 25 teachers and all administrators. We intended to have impact, and we saw the impact. There wasn't, to be honest with you, a lot of organic impact. People were new to the work. That's okay. In year 2, we are working with all schools. We wanted to get to 10 schools. We wanted 10 schools to participate. Every single one of them said, sign me up. We want a small group of teachers to participate. So I am working with a small group from all 17 schools. It's over 100 teachers, plus all administrators, all coaches, all coordinators. And the amount of organic impact that we have seen, we had a waiting list for next year starting in September of this year because the number of stories that people are hearing, the excitement, people want to participate. They are saying, I want to live into this profile. I want to bring it to life in my classroom. Let's get together and make that happen. We have teachers, elementary school principals, all facilitating professional learning, not because I told them to, not because Dr. Coffin or Margaret told them to, because they see the value in this work. They see that this is a game changer. They're doing it on their own. And so that's the idea of helping them to own this work. I want to share 2 quick examples of how educators, specifically in schools in Farmington, are truly owning this. So at Gill, we've got Chris Solomon, the principal, and Nicole Jones, the incredible coach, and they decided to bring the concept of authentic transfer and living into the profile to the one task challenge is what they called it. They invited all of their teachers, not just a subset of teachers, they invited all of their teachers to learn about this concept, try something out. That's what a lot of innovation, a lot of R&D is about. Let's try something new in a safe space where I will be able to work together. I will be able to self-actualize and strategically plan and all of the things that we want in our profile. And so they invited all of their teachers to learn about it and try something out. And then post publicly, what did you try? And how did it go in the teacher workspace? The response they got was incredible. And so Chris and Nicole were sharing this with me. You've got Jordan, a 5th grade math teacher, who teaches on coordinate grids. And on the left-hand side, you see, how did you used to teach it? And it was very math-oriented. It's math. So here's the coordinate grid. Plot the pairs, connect the points, right? It's all about the math. But now, how did he do the revised task? What's the change? He had students identify locations on the map of Farmington, because what is a map other than a coordinate grid? And so students are able to see something that they recognize, something that they can make sense of, something that they can see themselves in and connect to. And in order to learn the content, you are still learning the content. You're still learning the skills. It's just how you're doing it in a way that supports every single student. This is not just for high performers. This is for all students all the time. And the impact that it has had on students, Jordan specifically said it made the unit tangible. It allowed them to see the why are we learning this question that we get so often. It was designed so that students could see that and see how it's relevant in the real world. And then finally, the example from Wood Creek Elementary, we've got Roisin and Anna, who are 2nd year, so I was with them last year, and this is their 2nd year in investigations. They decided to lead a professional learning experience, again, for all of their staff members, not because I asked them to, not because their principal or Kelly or Margaret asked them to. They taught the teachers about the framework of acquisition, so students acquiring knowledge, making meaning of knowledge, and transferring knowledge. These are slides that they presented, that they made by themselves. And then they had teachers work on, I almost said students, they had the teachers work on how can we apply this to our own lessons? Just dipping your toe in the water. We're not asking you to make major transformation yet, but we're asking you to start thinking about how might this apply. That's the diffusion strategy. And if you think about the power of this, the response that we have heard from the teachers that we've worked with before, their comfort level in designing these authentic transfer tasks, impacting in an audience. Students produce work all the time. It very rarely actually goes somewhere. That's a lot of this work is, okay, you're about to interview the Secretary of State, right? I mean, wow, what a great authentic transfer task for that student. But this opportunity, this investigations work is supporting teachers to feel more confident. It's supporting them to increase their self-efficacy in this work. It's really, really exciting. And they're making that mindset shift. It's moving from, I used to think that I had to make all the decisions. I used to think that I had to be the one to do all of the teaching, when really there is teaching involved, but a lot of it is, okay, figure it out, kids. You guys have to navigate this. And so how can we support students, again, not just acquire knowledge, but apply it in a way that has meaning? That's the mindset shift that's being supported. And so as we think about the way that this can support the district in moving forward, this is a way that I think about whether it's district transformation or a school transformation, but we are focused in this investigations work on phase 1. We are focused on how can we transform learning, how can we use technology more strategically, and how can we transform instruction. But interestingly today, I was sitting in the back of the room with Catherine and Lori, 2 teachers at Forest Elementary, and they said, Leah, if we change the learning and we change the instruction, we change the technology, isn't that going to then change how students are grouped? Isn't that then going to change the flexible furniture conversation that we're having or flexible time and space, right? Isn't that going to naturally lead to those conversations? And I said, yes, absolutely. So while we are focusing on transforming the learning experiences for students, it is going to lead to system-level changes in all of these different areas. If I'm just lecturing to my kids all day long, there is no need for flexible furniture. There's no need. If you change the learning, that demands the change in the other pieces. That's what it means to innovate at the core. And so in closing, I would like to invite you into the reason that this was such mayhem in this room before, though we were very respectful, teachers are fantastic, but the reason that this was very chaotic is in 2 weeks, 2 weeks from tomorrow, we are having the Authentic Learning Showcase at the Hawk Community Center. And that is a time when all of the teachers from the first year of investigations and the second year of investigations will be sharing their stories. So they have been putting together the stories of their work, showcasing not only the good, but things that what are the challenges that they've had? What are the pitfalls? Things do not always go smoothly, and we need to celebrate those as well. We need to recognize that failure is not a dirty word, that it's a word that we need, it's a concept that we as a community need to embrace. Things are not always going to go well. And so teachers have really done some phenomenal, I showed you just 4 examples. This is a large group of teachers that have done some really phenomenal work. And so as we're thinking about this, just FYI, this was illustrated, this invite, illustrated and designed by Marissa Sedanovsky, from Farmington High School. So she is a graphic design student. She wants to go into graphic design. And I worked with Leslie, her teacher, and she designed this invite for us. And so it's really exciting. I hope that you can attend and hear the incredibly powerful stories that your teachers are doing as they work to help the district fulfill its promise to the community and bringing the profile to life. So, thank you again for your time. I welcome any questions.
Ms. Fox and then Ms. Williams, and we'll come around.
So this new innovation sounds wonderful. It really does. However, can you kind of tell us how this program aligns to the increase of students' reading and math with test scores?
Absolutely. Do you want me to, or do you want to take that? Or?
You can start and I can.
Absolutely. So the fundamental pieces of reading and test scores, if we go back to that learning framework, the acquisition, meaning, making, and transfer, the reading and writing is a crucial component, and it's a fundamental piece that underlies everything. But at the same time, to engage students, that question around why. Why am I learning how to read? Why am I learning how to write? That's a crucial piece. That is the #1 way to increase cognitive engagement, is for students to know why they're doing doing this. And so what we're doing, those fundamental pieces are still there. It's just that we're now teaching them in the context of, it's not just, I want you to learn how to read and write, but it's, I want you to learn to read and write so that this is what you can do with it. It actually shows a deeper understanding when students are able to apply their knowledge to new situations.
Can I just ask also, so is this reading math program or the interventions, or are students currently using this program?
The investigations work? Yes. The investigation, are students currently in investigations work?
Yes.
Yes, and so they are using the fundamental curriculum, the core curriculum that you have.
And that's elementary, K through, or first grade through what?
It's K through 12. So this is not a program, we use our core resources, and it's really about our teachers understanding how to have authentic learning experiences within the classroom, within the core resources. This isn't extra. And so we have some preliminary data from our high school, for example. We structured where we have a cohort at one of our high schools. So we have about 90 freshmen that work together with the shared, three teachers that are shared, with additional supports. And what the teachers are finding just from first semester to second semester, the difference in the academic success, the difference in the ability of students writing by going through this work and being in the cohort versus the students who maybe are not in a cohort or not, their teachers aren't part of this work. We've seen significant differences for the positive for the cohort. So we are really, really excited about the academic success of our students when we allow our teachers and support our teachers to do this work.
Can I just ask one more?
Yeah, of course.
So to some degree, is this more of a professional development for our teachers? Is that the basics, the professional development?
It's giving them the space and time to be able to work within their curriculum to really get to the more meaning making and transfer. So taking concepts and better understanding at a deeper level and then transferring that to a new experience. So yes, it's professional learning and support and time for our teachers to be able to do this.
Okay, thank you.
That helps.
I appreciate learning the why. Years ago, my first interaction with school as a parent was actually overseas. Mm-hmm. And I was teaching my daughter math facts with flashcards, and I was chastised by the teacher because she told me that she wanted my child to know why 2 + 2 = 4, as opposed to just knowing that 2 + 2 = 4. And I thought that was ridiculous. I just need her to learn math. But I get it now that, that more thorough understanding of the why leads to a deeper learning experience. And what you're doing here really increases engagement, which will reflect itself in a more positive learning experience, and it will manifest itself in kids reaching their potential, right? Because if you're doing my way and just teaching flashcards, right, you're missing the point and you're not really engaged. But if you're engaged, then you're more likely paying attention, you're learning more, and that will reflect itself, we're hopeful, when it gets to academic performance. I am thrilled to see and really appreciate this innovative approach to making sure that kids can see themselves in the tasks. I think that's wonderful. My question is really around consistency. So I love these pockets of excellence that are happening in classrooms, and I'm wondering how we can ensure that the same lessons are happening in every classroom across the school community.
Yep, so the beauty of this work is that we are working with our core materials. So for example, we have we have approved and we'll be implementing 2 major ELA programs at K through 5. Those are the exact same core text and curriculum that everyone is using. So right now, we're working with the teachers that we have capacity to support during the school day. But Leah talked about a couple different examples where our principals now are working with all of their staff. So while they're thinking about the EL skills block, they're having conversations around how do we get more from just the basic acquisition to the meaning making and then to the transfer. So that conversation is happening in every building. It's our teachers, though, who said, sign me up, we want to go first on this, that are really going to then become the leaders within their building. And they are influencing others. We're tracking some of that data to see the influence map and how that happens. So this isn't isolated to just a certain select group of teachers. They are willing to share their story and work with their colleagues wherever they sit within their buildings.
Ms. Smith?
We are working with our students. When you say all students, we are still talking about
Each
those
and every.
with. Perfect.
Yeah.
I learned a lot of this learning in Chicago in September. This innovation helps students that do struggle. So, and it's hands-on. So like, while they're learning, there was a conference. I hear people in the background asking what would happen in Chicago. There was a school board conference for urban students in schools. And those schools are thriving because they're not just sitting. Most students can't just sit. So like you explained how the young lady called and discussed, the food truck or ordering, food. That was their way of learning and doing a concept on getting things taught for those students. And those urban schools are thriving on this, but I want to make sure every student is able to not, it's a difference by doing math and reading. I want to make sure students are comprehending, and it's a difference.
Absolutely.
So comprehension is the key. I mean, anybody can read words, but you want to be able to comprehend, and that's what those students were learning. With this same kind of concept in Chicago, there will be a conference in October with students in schools in Las Vegas, and they're talking about some of the same things.
Yes, thank you. And to your point, Ms. Smith, a year ago, we met, well, I think a year and a half ago now, we met with the students at the Student Roundtable, and we talked a little bit about when did they live into this profile. And they were very honest. And they said the only time we really understand why we get a grade that we get is in a class where we actually are active in that. They brought up CTE, they brought up music classes, and that was it. But the other classes, they weren't quite sure what the difference was between an A or a B. Right, so to your point, it's absolutely correct. And so Leah often shares about a national statistic that 82% of the time spent in K-12 education classrooms is on acquisition. Read the chapter, take the test, read the chapter, take the test. This is moving us into the meaning making where they're actually applying that and then even applying it to a new skill, using that as a new skill for them to learn. So we know that our students are telling us that that's what they want. And our teachers are working so extremely hard in doing this, but are also feeling fulfilled because they see what our students are learning.
Ms. Heinrich? Go ahead.
Yeah, I have a couple of questions. Can you go back to the slide? It had the alt model on it.
Yes.
And it had, I wanted to ask what the labels were, but I was like,
Do this version?
No, keep going back.
Keep going. Oh, okay, all the way.
way back. I just didn't want to interrupt you during your
Oh, no,
presentation.
thank you. I appreciate that.
Right there.
Here we go.
Yeah, what I was looking at, so I figured out acquisition meaning making and transfer.
Yes,
But
so.
what about the vertical?
So the learning axis, the x-axis is the learning axis, and that looks at deeper, more, more rigorous, more authentic, cognitively engaging learning. SAMR is a very common technology framework. It helps us think about, are we just using technology to replicate what we could do on pen and paper? So if I give my students a worksheet on paper, I could then, S is substitution, I could hand them that same worksheet on a device, and now they're still doing the same worksheet, it's just on a device. There's been no real change there. And so it goes from substitution to augmentation, modification, redefinition, but it's a way to think about increasingly sophisticated uses of technology, where the technology not only enhances or makes it more efficient, makes it more fun, but it actually transforms the learning. So for example, I saw a group of fourth grade students in upstate New York, and they made a hand for a student, like a working actual hand. They couldn't do that without the technology. The technology redefined what was possible. If you took the technology away, that task is not possible, right? When we think about Waze and why we all like to use Waze when we're driving to avoid the potholes or to avoid the cops, right? And know where things are, know where the traffic is, that technology allows us to see into the future. If you took that technology away, it wouldn't be possible. So it just helps us think about what is the use, what is the effectiveness of the technology. We have talked about that only slightly because we really want to emphasize that it's the learning shift that comes first. I used to worked for Apple for 10 years, and I saw too many examples of people putting technology in the hands of students when it did not make sense. Saw it all the time. And so we need to learn, how do we need to transform learning first, and then we can think about how might technology be a support. So with the second year investigations group, we've gotten into that a little bit more, but in the first year, we just like to talk about deepening learning and aligning it to the profile.
Oh, yeah, I get that as a teacher. You're speaking to my heart, really. I mean, it's just, so, yeah, the Innovate to the Core website, is that on the district website? I mean, because on your presentation, I tried to click and I didn't see the video. So where do we find that?
Oh, okay. It's we can get you the link. It's fpsinnovatethecore.org, but we can absolutely get you that link. And I'll
So
just
it's not
ship
on
that.
the district website?
I'm not sure if it's yet linked. Yeah, we're still making some final. Oops, I'm going back here. Some final
All right.
sort of edits and changes, but.
Yeah, I like, because I've talked to teachers, I've seen the proof of concept, and the teachers that are doing it are really super excited.
Yeah.
The kids are excited and engaged too. So I get that, and I get how when, you teach kids the basics, but when they use it, then they remember it in a different way. And as far as improving their writing, if they write about something that's meaningful to them, then they improve their writing, their reading. They're going to improve their reading if they have to read and do research on things that they're interested in. So I get all that. And I just want to compliment, I guess, our district, our leaders, because in order for this to work, it's got to be top down and bottom up. So you have to have your administrators providing the support, and you have to have your teachers really wanting to do this. And also, the thing that I see is that we're giving our teachers the time during their workday to collaborate, because there's such a demand on our teachers for all the things that they have to do. So, to put one more task to say, do this, but not give them the time to do this, it's not going to work. So, and that takes time and it takes commitment. So I just want to really compliment Kelly and you and the team for, providing all these resources and the support for our teachers. And for our community to know that, we're really doing this. I mean, people are saying, what are we doing to improve? And I've always said, as a teacher, if you focus on the learning, all right, then the grades are going to follow. Or if you focus on the learning, then the test scores are going to follow. But it takes time to allow that to develop. So it's not an instant fix. And we're still, our kids are still coming out of COVID. I mean, this is. They were saying, the high school or the college seniors, this is their first graduation because they didn't get their high school graduation because of COVID, so we're still overcoming those things too. So I'm not going to take up too much time talking, so thank you.
Mr. Walker?
Trying not to jump out of my seat with respect to this program because this is so reflective, as was mentioned, about a lot of the fundamental concepts of career technical education, that practical application of knowledge and funds of knowledge along the way. I've got a couple of quick questions. One, in terms of the projects, if you will, that the students are engaged in, what does the collaboration look like across the core curriculums? For example, when you mentioned the students working on a graph, where the graph has maybe a science or a social science application, so are the teachers from the social science and science pairing with the math teachers to develop this project, or is it all coming out of one particular core, and you can find a different one in each one of the cores? What does that look like?
Great question, Mr. Walker. It really depends on the teacher. We're putting the power in the hands of the teachers. We're asking them to take a step forward, but we're not asking them to take too big of a step. We're asking them to determine what's most comfortable for them. So in certain examples, we have that interdisciplinary, cross-curricular experience for the students. In other elements, it's more of a single content area, though having those conversations across, at least getting teachers, especially in the first year, to think, oh, here's how I could connect this to, so Debbie's example, for example, how could we connect that to ELA, right, and writing, and the idea of persuasive writing, writing an argument, writing an informational piece. You can see that connection there. So it will depend. We are encouraging as much as possible those cross-curricular connections, but we're not requiring it because we want to allow teachers to move at their own pace.
Well, that makes a whole lot of sense to me. And then the other question/comment is, I see an incredible opportunity for career connections and career pathway development out of this without knowing. I know we're in year 2 of this,
yes,
and there's a lot to still develop. But my hope is at some point, whether it's through in partnership with career technical education side of our offerings, or out of this springs an element to be able to say, hey, these skills of why you've learned what you've learned can connect to these kinds of careers, which increases that why and brings a little more incentivizing into the learning at that point. It may be premature to ask this, but is that somewhere in the horizon of
That's
this
exactly,
program?
I was just talking to Nyasha Boyd the other day about making those, and she's in charge, I don't remember her title, I apologize, but I know she's career pathways, right? And so we were talking about how to best intersect, have her become a part of some of these conversations, connect teachers to her so that they can take advantage of the resources. That is absolutely where we're going, because the elements of the profile, this is the embodiment of CTE. And so the connection it's inherent. I don't know if Margaret, you wanted to share anything else?
You hit it, all that content integration as well as career awareness and opportunity along with the profile. If we don't move students if we want kids to have acquisitional, meaning-making, and transfer opportunities, if we don't live in that place of transfer, where we think about real-world context for learning, where they are applying their learning to a novel, new scenario independently, they will not engage as sophisticatedly with the profile of a lifelong learner. And we will have to take advantage that provides an opportunity for us to say, wait a minute, how many different careers are in this particular real-world problem? Because we know as early as middle school, if kids don't get exposed to a variety of careers, they're asked to make choices, as you know, very quickly in high school for the future. And so we've been building a foundation of K-12 career readiness with Zello and a lot of the works through instructional services to really start to say, hey, how do we live beyond an educational development plan and go deeper? And one of the things I want to make clear about this work is it's about system work. It's about collective practice. It's not a one-time professional development that all of our staff go through and we've run them through the mill and then all of a sudden they all can do this. This is about intentional sharing our language, as you know, our profile, acquisition, meaning making and transfer, and our positioning, authenticity, and noticing, and learning how to actualize it over time, where you increase size of your concentric circles of those that are influenced by it. And yes, we have individual teachers working with Leah consistently each month, but she's also working with our coaches and coordinators. So Christy Fifield right now, as you know, we are put into place new 11th and 12th grade ELA courses. We're using all of those anchors, the profile, acquisition, meaning making and transfer, and positioning, authenticity, noticing in the design of those so that those have authentic transfer. Our new adoptions of the new social studies text. The work that will happen with the social studies department with that text is inquiry-based approaches. So the work doesn't live only in this time with Leah. This is really about connecting all the work of the system so that it spreads. So even individuals who aren't, we all love to be with Leah, can still connect and are doing the work, so we're all aligned. And remember, all of our middle school teachers, as of next year, will be PBL trained with New Tech Network, which completely aligns with this authentic learning work. So we're really working at this from multiple angles to move a system and change what teaching and learning looks like. And I love how you talked about if we change the learning, the system has to follow.
One more comment.
Go ahead, yes, go ahead.
I think it's really important to also lift up that this direction lines up with data and research that talks about if students know where they want to go in terms of a career. Doesn't necessarily mean they're going to be locked in on it, but at least they have an idea and a focus that promotes not only getting into post-secondary, but it promotes even further their completion of secondary, because I think too often we concentrate on did they get into college. Well, that's all wonderful, fine, and good, but if they never finish the 3, 4, or 5 years, whatever it takes for them to get it done, then what was the purpose? They walk away with half a degree and a whole lot of debt. But now they get to, they go through this focus, they know what they want to do, and they're more inclined to finish and get to the end of this destination, whether it's 4-year, 2-year, trade, it doesn't matter. So I think this is really the start of a beautiful runway of learning and success for students, however they wish to walk their path.
Every project is a knowledge-building experience, and we know in the research about knowledge-based literacy that if you contextualize literacy in learning knowledge topics, real world, you move literacy. And so we have to stop teaching it in isolation and teaching it in context, and that will help us to augment our literacy skills in our students for the long term.
Agreed. Thank you.
Ms. Heinrich?
Yeah, and just one more question. In June, we have a big retirement celebration, and so what systems do you have in place to bring new teachers on board with the work that the teachers are already doing?
Yep, so we do have a new teacher induction prior to school starting, so we'll have 2 full days with them. So this is definitely part of the initial and the ongoing conversation. Right now, our principals are gathering the names of the next group that will be going. And we also, I know Leah talked just a little bit, but we work with our administrators every month for 2 hours at a time to really help them lead this work as well. So this is something that is touching all of our teachers. You'll hear people say, what's this proof of concept? I've heard about this, even if they haven't been part of the group or they're not in a team with somebody who's been one of the teachers. So we see the influence of it. So it's a lot of different ways that we're allowing our teachers the opportunity and providing the space for this work to happen.
Okay. I'd like to conclude by, I share Donald's excitement. It's hard for me to sit down right now. I'm so excited about what we are providing for our students and our teachers.
Our staff. Mm-hmm.
It's really powerful. In real life, you don't do all of your reading during the first hour of your day and all of your math stuff during the second hour of your day and then move on to, social studies. In life, we have to be able to access each of those skill sets and intertwine them and draw on them in whatever creative ways are needed for each task that comes before us as we engage in our day. And this model of learning and instruction is so reflective of real life. Also, the tremendous agency that you are building with our young people, they're not going to be like me and be 62 and somebody say, start a task force. I'm like, what? Start a task force? They're going to be like, of course, I started a task force when I was in second grade about plastics. So we're building the capacity for agency and voice in every single one of our students, that their voice matters. And they do have the power, even as a second grader or a fifth grader or a ninth grader, to make a difference in this world. Bravo. Thank you so much.
And that's the end of our district updates. Thank you.
My goodness. Mr. Leboe, that's the sizzle. That's the sizzle. Okay, next, moving on to our reports from board committees. Ms. Weems?
Yes.
Do you, 363?
Yeah, do you want me to report, Terry?
I can. Oh, it's on the wrong page, that's why.
Okay.
Yeah, that's weird. Do you happen to have it up?
I have
Okay,
it.
thank you.
Okay.
Right, the Finance Committee met Thursday, May 2nd. I was the board representative along with district representatives. I just want to point out that the purpose of the committee is to hear the information on things that need to go to the whole board. We do not make any decisions at the Finance Committee. We just ask questions, and we also give the district representatives opportunity to gather more information. So we give them feedback and say we want to know more about things. And so all the things that we discussed are up for discussion items. We talked about the facilities roof replacement, and Mr. Barth gave a nice presentation on that that will be presented also. And one of the things that I want to point out is most of our improvements are done by a project management team, but this is a small project. And so Mr. Barth and his team actually did the bidding and took care of this so that we didn't have to work with the project manager. So that saved the district considerable money. And we will have a presentation to hear more about the funding for this and what they're doing. Furniture purchase for the new central office. That was something that my notes on it, this is going to be a discussion item, and we'll have some questions, but basically the existing furniture isn't going to fit into the new building, and I had a concern. I was like, okay, so we're renovating this building, you're going to smaller spaces, but they explained that the spaces are better suited. They don't need as much office space, and so it's going to be more collaboration space. And we'll have a report on the needs for that during discussion items. And then the third thing was on, they're using consortium pricing for that also, which eliminates the need to bid the project. And the last thing is the Oakland Schools budget resolution, which we had like a 1,000,000-page in our board packet, and we have a booklet, and they've been talking about that. But Mrs. Kaminsky is going to highlight a few select areas in her presentation on that. And one of the things that just caught my eye was she pointed out that they're updating all the technical campuses, and so there's money for that. There's an increase in the special education funding, which is the win for our school districts. And also, I'm hoping she's going to talk about the residency program for the business office and how we're going to benefit from that. And so those are the things that are going to be presented during discussion items.
Okay, thank you. All right, moving on to discussion items. First up, we have the review of the Oakland Schools budget resolution.
I don't think I have anything actually to present. And this is going to be very quick. Obviously, it relates to Oakland Schools budget, and so I'm not going to present a lot of detail on that, just kind of give you the highlights. But each year, each Board of Education within each ISD is asked to issue a resolution either in support or disapproval of Oakland Schools' general operating budget. And that has to be done by June 1st each year. So on April 12th, this budget was presented to the Oakland County School business officials. There was also a designates meeting that was held on May 1st. That's for a board member to attend to also hear that same presentation. So just to highlight a few things, they are estimating an increase in taxable value of approximately 5.8%, which for ISDs usually means more money. And so, as Mrs. Heinrich mentioned, that PA-18, that special education funding, is going up this year. And they've projected an increase that they will distribute to the local schools at about 9%. So very positive. They do have some other assumptions. Again, they have personnel costs as well, so they're budgeting a 2% increase, salary increase. As far as some other highlights, Oakland Schools technical campus renovations, they are doing some different things at each of the campuses. So very exciting to see. They're continuing their work on literacy and numeracy and supporting the local school districts. And then something exciting for us, and these two programs are really in response to that rising need to find qualified individuals as either school business officials or HR professionals retire from school districts. There is a lot of knowledge and history leaving districts at this point in time. And so Oakland Schools developed the Business Office Residency Program, and they're also going to implement the HR Residency Program in the following year. But, so Farmington is participating in that. The intent of this program is to there's 4 individuals who have committed to a 2-year basically job with Oakland Schools, and they will do 3 rotations within the county, so at 3 different school districts to get some different experience after being trained at Oakland Schools for about 2 to 3 weeks. And so we had requested to have an individual the 2nd or 3rd round, but due to some changes at other districts, we will be hosting one of those interns July 1, which will be very interesting as we're going to move buildings and try and find space for this individual. But we're really excited. It's a way to try and capture talent and individuals that hopefully will find themselves within school business. So again, just some of the highlights from Oakland Schools. We'll ask that you approve that resolution at the May 21st board meeting. Does anyone have any questions?
Any questions? Yes, please.
I don't have any questions, but I will share with the board that I have read through the budget. I did not attend the information on the first because I was out of town, but I do have several questions that I plan to submit. The biggest one is related to adopting a budget that is it's not at a deficit, but expenses are higher than revenues. And generally speaking, that's not a budget I'd like to pass. The revenues were about $470 million, expenses were $480 million. I think that most of that, based off of my read, is because of some capital expenditures. That makes sense, but I do see some, so it doesn't bother me where that happens, where those are one-time, non-recurring costs, and there's an appropriate fund balance that could be leveraged to draw that down. But I noticed that there were also increases in recurring costs. So I just have some questions related to that before I would feel comfortable recommending to the board that that be adopted. Not to say that that won't be my recommendation, but right now I just have some more questions.
You know, one of the things in there, Mrs. Weems, and I don't know if you picked up on this, but they had, so we've been talking about fund balance, and we tabled the discussion, but they have the fund balance forecast from 25 up through 29, and it's actually projected to go up. And so, you know, I didn't ask why it's projected to go up, but it's starting at 5.6%, and in 29-30, it's up to 13.3%. So I thought that was interesting. And, you know, questions, because you were talking about expenses exceeding revenues. And so why that is happening.
Thank
So
you.
how soon do we need to have, I know we have to have this for the next meeting. So is there any way that Ms. Weems can break all this down to each and every one of us so that we can know exactly what she just shared with us?
Ms. Weems, if you want to email me your questions, I can definitely get answers to those and take a deeper look into the budget to see if I can.
I greatly appreciate that offer. I was going to do that myself.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll definitely get the information to you before the May 21st.
Yep. Nope, there's an opportunity to send questions to Oakland, so, yes.
Thank you.
Okay.
So should we get questions to you or to Dr. Delgado? Or to Ms. Weems?
Dr. Delgado, yes, if you'd like to send them to him, and then he can forward them on to me.
I can share it with both Mrs. Kaminsky as well as the officials at Oakland Schools, and we can get you the answers.
Perfect, thank you.
Awesome.
Thank you. Great, thank you.
Moving on to the facilities roof project.
Good evening, Board of Education, Dr. Delgado. My name is Jim Pierce. I'm the Assistant Director for Facilities Management, and with me is Shauna Greka, our Administrative Assistant of Facilities Management. We're here for Mr. Barth. He's under the weather tonight, and we're going to speak on the roof project. So due to significant leaks and rapid deterioration of the roof at the district's facility management building, a recommendation was made on March 4th to the district's cabinet meeting to bring forward a roof replacement that had been scheduled for the end of the 2020 bond project.
With the assistance of FPS Purchasing, Department of Formal Bid was released on April 1st, 2024. April 4th, a mandatory pre-bid meeting was held with 9 local contractors in attendance. Bids were received on April 19th with a public bid opening held the same day. Total of 5 bids were received. The bid tabulation is included with the package, which I'm guessing you guys have.
Can you go to the microphone, please?
Yes, I'm so sorry. A post-bid meeting was held on April 23rd with the following low qualified bidder, which is Newton Crane Roofing Company. During the bid interview, the project team reviewed the contractor's qualifications, scope of work, the project schedule, manpower requirements, and specified materials.
The Newton Crane School District projects include Rochester, Lincoln Park, and Woodhaven schools. Previous work includes the Wayne RESA, Lake Orion, and Waterford schools. The project team is proposing that the following company be awarded the roofing work in addition to a 4.6 project contingency for any unforeseen conditions.
So Newton Crane Roofing Company, Paul Schick is the owner. His base bid was $216,800 with a project contingency of $10,000, bringing it to $226,800.
And so the funding for the removal and the reinstallation of the roof at Facilities Management in the amount of $226,800 is to come from the general fund. It's not part of the bond work. And I will say that I've been at Facilities Management for over 40 years, and I don't recall a full replacement ever happening at that building. There's been patchwork here and there, much of which was done by our maintenance men themselves at a cost savings to the district, not having it contracted out. So it is in dire need. I think there might be some pictures, maybe. I don't know if
there
it's not presentation, so I push a button or something.
Yeah, they're in the board packet.
They're in the board package. Scroll down. Okay, here's some. So these are just different sections of the roof. The section where it says A, that's where our offices are, our admin offices for the building, and the long white colored roof beside that is not impacted in this change. It's all in section B that you see there. So quite a bit of deterioration going on here. Some of those darker areas, it's where there's no asphalt or anything covering it at all. So it's just total bare and a lot of erosion all over the venting and everything. So pretty bad. The roof is pretty bad.
So,
Other questions? Ms. Smith?
so you're just telling me this has been like this for a while?
It
And,
has.
and so we've been just doing patchwork?
Yes. Just patching
And how long
here
have
and
we
there.
been doing just patchwork?
John, I don't mind going, there's no records that exist currently, so it looks like it appears about 25, 30 years since that roof has been done.
Yeah. And I've been in the department for over 40, and I don't recall any major work being done on that roof.
Is there any leakage
Yes.
coming through? So there's damage on the inside as well?
Yes.
Yes.
And that is being repaired here and there when the leakage does occur.
And so, once we do the roof, we have to do some work on the inside as well?
No.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions?
Thank you. So my question is, why wouldn't this have been part of the bond work?
That might be a question for Mr. John Barth, I apologize.
Okay,
That one I do not know.
no
We did
worries.
not put
Or
that on our
Ms.
little cheat
Kaminsky.
sheet.
Yeah, because it sounds like, I mean, if it hasn't been updated for, 20, 30 years or
Right.
more, I would have expected it to be part of, and I thought that I read that it was meant to be addressed as part of the end of the 2020 bond work. So that's just what I have a question on.
Sorry, I didn't know you were behind me.
So it was part of the bond scope work. However, as we've kind of shifted some of the projects, so new central office, the storage facility, doing the work that we did at the New Visions, we eliminated or took money from some of those projects. We're also, the scoreboards were not part of the original bond scope. But knowing the need to update those, as well as put lighting on those aux fields, we decided to move forward with those projects and put the facilities roof on hold. Unfortunately, I think the deterioration is much too great once they had it evaluated. So that's why we're moving forward with this, and why it's not currently in the bond scope.
Are there any other projects that are potentially on hold that we should consider ahead of any other matters that might come to us that require approval of bond funds?
Not that I'm aware of right now. Everything else has pretty much been addressed.
Is it possible to leverage amounts left over or potentially in contingency for this rather than leverage the general fund?
We could look at doing that, yes. So I know we still have some of those projects out there, but I can definitely talk with Scott and get his thoughts on that as we, move into those projects or kind of finalizing the bond. But yeah, definitely.
Thank you.
I can have an answer for you.
Yes, Ms. Smith?
I guess I've just got a lot of concerns. We're a premier district, and we have buildings looking like this. People driving by seeing this, I mean, I do know people that do stop and drive and look at the grass grow and the flowers and look at roofs. This is not good that we have had to wait this long to ask for this to take place and to be done. And it should not have had to wait. We should not have to be waiting to look. I mean, when you just glance, if your vision is not good, you may think it's just a little snow. But if you zoom in on these pictures and see how bad this is, so we just gonna keep putting project after project. I don't want another project put off and we look like this. That's like putting a Band-Aid on something that just keeps spreading. And so this had to come to us now, under this leadership and under this superintendent. That's not acceptable for me.
I mean, I can't speak to the schedule that's put together for the facilities and the roofing projects and paving and stuff. So that would be more of a question for John.
Well, I
to
appreciate
answer.
you all bringing this to us, and that all of you have done your due diligence with the superintendent on doing this, but this is disturbing. This is not a school district that's on the other side of wherever. You know, if we're going to do right by our students, let's do right by our buildings too. This doesn't look good.
I can guarantee you none of our other buildings look like this. None of the other roofs look like this.
Dr. Delgado?
I just could chime in that it's not unusual with a multi-year bond for facilities like maintenance or transportation or central office to be the last in consideration, and that we utilize contingencies and increases fluctuations in material costs, and we prioritize the school buildings first.
Yeah.
And that's very much where we are. We're in the home stretch of this bond, and we want to do right by every single employee in this district. And I agree with you, Ms. Smith. We are a premier district. Everything looks fantastic, and it all should be uniformly presentable. And so that's why we're bringing this for discussion tonight.
Thank you, Dr. Delgado.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Any other questions?
Ms. Heinrich?
No, I just want to enhance a couple things that Mr. Barth reported at the Finance Committee meeting. He talked about the warranty. He said that Newton Crane has a 20-year labor and material warranty, which is above industry standard. So that was good. He said that the material they're using is an estimated life is 50 years. And I think one of the things that he said at the committee meeting, he said that they didn't realize the roof was in such bad shape until it started leaking, and then they took a closer inspection, and then they decided that it was more intimate. And the reason that the Newton Crane bid was significantly lower is when they were up inspecting the roof, they noticed that there was a slight slope on the roof. And so, you know, that was a good catch for them. And so they said that, you know, it's going to cost less because of this. And so it was a good decision. So I just want to give a shout out for Mr. Barth and his team for actually doing the bidding process and, you know, taking that small job in-house and really, you know, being, you know, careful with our funds as far as how we're spending them.
Thank you. And also, that warranty is much better than the warranties on our other roofs. Most companies only offer it on their product, and you can't even get a hold of them when there's issues. So having the labor and material warranty is huge.
Yeah.
You know, you have somebody to go after if there's leaks or something to go, you know, moving forward, so. Any other questions?
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Have a great
Thank you.
evening.
Have a good evening.
Next, we have the Oakland Schools Board of Education election. Designated FSO. I'm sorry. Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry. New central office furniture. My apologies.
All right, good evening. We did have a conversation with Ms. Heinrich at the Finance and Facilities meeting about this, but we wanted to just share some information tonight. This is a discussion item for the board, as you've heard a little bit about our move into the new central office building, formerly known as the Visions Building. So we are thrilled to be able to have this opportunity as a central office staff to move into a new building for us that will allow us all to be working together, to be on the same floor, in the same hallway. In addition to that, really having more common areas, common collaboration space, small meeting rooms, large meeting rooms. That's one thing that's really at a premium here in our district. We've been having to use spaces that are for our teachers to use in learning for students as meeting rooms. We just didn't have that space before, so we're really, really excited about the move. As Ms. Heinrich kind of alluded to, the downside of that is that some of our office spaces where we would work individually are a little bit smaller than what we currently have in our current facility, and so therefore requiring us to look at different furnishings for the building. I'll let Jennifer talk a little bit about some of the dollars, but I can in general just say, when we first started looking, you can see the picture of all of the entire building and the space. That includes the Science Center space where we store all of our materials, and those are distributed out to the district buildings as needed. We will, though, also be moving any newer furniture that we most recently purchased into spaces. The furniture I think we have in our current offices is 20-plus years old. So some of that will move. Some will look at other ways to be able to either sell that or whatever we would need to do. We first started looking at the furniture prices. The first, when we had everything we thought we might need, it was about $545,000. So that was a little more than we anticipated or certainly budgeted. We've been able to bring that down, and there's information in your packet on the most recent quote. We got it this afternoon, and so we uploaded it there. So to about $325,000 for that space. Again, we will be talking or bringing to the board at the next meeting a request to approve a not to exceed amount. And so we're looking at the $325,000 as well as with a 15% contingency. Since we just saw the new quote right before we sent it to you in the furniture layout, we still want to make sure that if there's additional things that are needed for our staff, we want to make sure that we have that.
So as you can see from this picture, there's a lot of furniture that's needed as well. And so we did have a budget in the bond for about $200,000 for furniture. Obviously, $325,000 is more than that. Again, we talked about having contingency funds, owner contingency that we can reallocate to help support this furniture purchase. And as Kelly mentioned, we would like to add a contingency amount on. Again, it is hard to get a 90-page quote and really truly understand what the furniture looks like and see whether it fits the needs of every space that's there. So that's why we're asking or will be asking for a little bit more. So we anticipate bringing you a not to exceed amount for approval at the May 21st board meeting. And having it approved at the next meeting will allow us to then place the order for all of that and have it installed sometime in July so that we can move in either in August or September. I think supply chain for furniture has gotten a little bit back on track. But again, we want to, make sure. And the cost includes installation, so the company would be coming out and installing all of that.
Any questions? Ms. Heinrich?
So I just want to be clear, is this money coming from the bond money?
There are two options. We can take it all out of bond. There is, as I mentioned, contingency that we could reallocate and add to that furniture budget, furniture and equipment. And then, or we can take $200,000, which was our original budget. Now, I will say, the cost of furniture from when we originally put those costs together and those budgets has gone up 30%. So the costs are much higher than when we started and planned for whether it was renovating the current central office or going to Vision. So a little bit, of the higher cost than the budget is due to that.
But before you ask us to approve, are you going to specify where the money is coming from, is what I'm asking. Are we going to approve just above the 200,000? We're going to approve the whole amount? We're going to approve where it's coming from?
Correct, yes.
So
We will
you'll
come with
get-
a recommendation of where we feel it should come from.
So
So
we'll
it
get
would
all that
be,
information.
we're recommending that the board approve a not to exceed amount of $375,000 to come from the 2020 bond funds.
Any other questions?
If there are any further questions, on this or any more detail needed or, where we're taking the funds from, please get your questions to Dr. Delgado, and we can definitely get you answers and more information so that you have that before the next meeting.
And you said something at the committee meeting about you were looking at changing the warranty. So
Correct.
is that reflected
Yes,
in the new
this-
price? That's what you were waiting for?
That's
Okay.
correct,
So it's a
yes.
lesser warranty. So
Correct, 5
that will be
years.
included in the information before the next meeting, so that we'll have a chance to absorb it, because we really didn't have a chance to look at all of it before
Correct.
tonight.
Mhm.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Now, moving on to the Oakland Schools Board of Education election designate resolution.
Okay.
Hi, Rick.
So, this has been quite the experience, figuring all these dates and everything. So at the last meeting, I told you that we thought that we had to discuss and approve the resolution. I've got all the dates and everything. So, according to I've got that.
Okay.
Yeah. We were at our,
Thank you.
at our agenda review meeting, we were talking about this, and they had the date May 13th, where we had to designate and consider adopting the resolution before our next meeting. And so then we thought, well, maybe they, transpose the 13th with the 31st. And so fortunately, we asked for some more questions. So basically, according to the revised school code, the districts have to consider the resolution no less than one meeting before adopting the resolution, and we have to consider it as a discussion item during an open meeting and adopt the resolution as an action item during another open meeting, with each meeting occurring on a separate date. And they have to adopt the resolution no earlier than 21 days prior to the election, which is June 3rd. So all of those things came in place, so we can't really adopt it tonight anyway, because it's not 21 days prior, so it has to be no earlier than 21 days. So we got all the dates cleared up, okay? The Oakland Schools has 4 candidates, and they sent out a list of the 4 names. And those are, at a printed somewhere, and we have, yes, thank you. I have them highlighted so I wouldn't find them. So the 4 candidates are Carol Finkelstein, Charlie Gandy Thompson, Mark Katz, and W. Semino Scott. And I asked the Oakland Schools, they had information on the candidates, because they're actually hosting a Meet the Candidates forum tonight during our meeting, which none of us are attending because we're all here.
I believe, though, that it will be recorded.
Yeah, the event is being organized, but they cannot share, by law, Oakland Schools cannot request biographical information on the candidates for distribution. So they can't ask the candidates for information to distribute to us. But hopefully, we'll be able to access it, but she didn't say that. So we'll have to find out and do our due diligence on researching the candidates. And so on the next meeting, we will have it as an action item, and we should be prepared to discuss the candidates, and hopefully we'll get some information on the other 2 candidates that we know nothing about. And the election meeting is June 3rd, which I will be able to attend, but I need an alternate in case something comes up and I cannot attend, or I get sick, or accident or something, and Dr. Blau was originally going to be the alternate, but she cannot. So is there anybody on the board that is willing to be the alternate? And I had asked, the last time you went, Ms. Weems, you were the designate, did you just go, or did you and the alternate both go?
I just went.
So just the designate. So the alternate is just somebody that needs to be on call in case something happens that I can't. So any volunteers for alternates?
Can you say what date it is again?
June 3rd, it's a Monday, from 5:30 to 7:30, and it's in Pontiac. And the main thing is we'll have our proclamation to submit who we're supporting. The thing that you have to be in person to elect, and if there's a tie vote, then there's a second round of voting. So it'd be nice to have somebody, in case there's a tie. I don't know if there's ever been a tie.
It hasn't.
There hasn't, okay. So we don't hopefully have to worry about that. So it should be a one and done? Okay.
I'm okay to serve
Okay.
unless anybody else wants to.
Can anybody serve as the alternate?
Ms. Weems.
Ms. Weems can? Okay, so Ms. Weems will be the alternate.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Weems.
For doing that. So, yes, that was quite the experience, figuring out all the dates and the timelines and everything.
Okay. All right, moving on to our last discussion item of board policies, operating procedures, and collaboration. And again, our goal here is to brainstorm together what are some things that we can do together to get back to the place where we were our first year and a half or so, where we were really collaborating well. So what ideas do we have around that?
Can you repeat your question?
Yes. What ideas do we as a board have for how to get back to a better place, a better, more collaborative place as a team of 7? Because we know that we do our best work for our students when all 7 of us come together. We each have voices and expertise that are valuable to our students and to the work that we do for our students. And we did at one time have a lot of collegiality among all 7 of us, where we were all coming together at our retreats. We were working together in an environment that was very, where we really followed our board agreements. We were really respectful of one another and each other's ideas. We were really doing well at presuming positive intent, at listening to learn, not to defend, and we seem to have slipped a bit away from that. And my question is, how can we get back there? What are some things that we might try or do together as a board to get ourselves back there? Because it is all about the students, and our students deserve our very best. And there's a quote I heard recently, Ralph Nader. He said, "Justice requires that we lose and lose and lose and lose until we win." And we, all 7 of us, are staunchly committed to doing the very best that we can for our students. All of us, without a doubt, are passionate about providing the best service we can for our students. So what can we do from here going forward to get back to that place where we really are truly collaborating in the spirit of our board agreements and working together, where we are really listening to one another's ideas and respectful of one another's ideas, including one another's ideas, so that everyone can be comfortable coming to a retreat, being at the board table, and together creating the best district we can for our students. Yes, Ms. Smith?
I think that you have put too much energy into reprimanding board members when we are all independent, especially those of us that have been on this board for quite a while. The fear of you thinking that people are doing things outside of doing their work. All of us were elected. If I recall, none of us right now have been appointed. To get back where we were, I'm just going to be candid. I don't think we will ever be there. But I do think that we will, if we continue to focus on the students, educating them, taking care of the bias in this community, working with all students, working with this community, listening to each and every one of our stakeholders. Keep in mind, we have to listen to them. They're not elected, but we do have to listen to them. Reprimanding and disrespecting colleagues, that has gone on since October of '22. And I think that that ship has sailed, and we have been taught in our training that we do not have to be friends, but we should collaborate and work together on this board. This is not the AKAs, the Deltas, or sorority or fraternity. But we should be able to work, rebuild, try to rebuild the relationships that we had with both cities. There's going to be things you are not going to want to hear, but you have to listen to what's being said and not just go hide in your head under a pillow and just say, nope, we're not talking, we're not listening. And that's what's been happening. The trust is gone. I prefer emails and text messages opposed to private conversations because they're always switched and twisted around. I have no problem with working with anybody on this board. I have no problem with working with the superintendent. But what I'm not going to have is, like I said at the last meeting, is the disrespect and the reprimands, which has been very insulting. I have asked to be, I've asked for Dr. Delgado to, and I've talked to him about having some discussion with Mr. Smith by doing a DEI training, because there's been some microaggression words that have been used. And so Dr. Delgado has agreed. I will probably have, well, I know I have to do the meeting virtual. But at the end of the day, that whole thinking that you gonna run everybody on here, that's what's caused a lot of this discord. So I refuse to go to the retreats because I'm not sitting at a tribunal. I'm not there to learn how to do yoga. I'm not there to learn how to, you to get into my personal, well, what's your favorite color? I just want a board that we can focus and work together here at the table.
Thank you, Ms. Smith, for trusting us with the truth of your experience.
I would be a little bit more comfortable if this was a retreat item. I don't feel comfortable having this conversation or beginning to have this conversation. I think that that's part of what we do in terms of our retreat. And I think that that's the place for this to happen. It's just my perspective.
Thank you, Ms. Fox. Ms. Heinrich?
Yeah, I think we have, as Ms. Fox said, we have systems in place. We have board agreements, we have policies, we have a code of ethics. We have board retreats scheduled where we have opportunities to collaborate, do team building. Everybody has a seat at the table, everybody's invited, but just because you're invited, if people choose not to participate, then I don't think it should be forced. I would like to be treated with civility. If I walk into a room, I don't like shoulders turned or cold shoulders, but people have their own perceptions and their own way of dealing with things. And as a board, we're all elected. We all have a seat at the table, and we all have an opportunity to express our voice and to, treat each other with civility. And I think that's what we can ask.
When you say civility, do you mean like common courtesy?
Just, just civility, common courtesy, politeness. That's all.
Okay. Yes, with me.
I agree with Mrs. Smith and Mrs. Fox and Mrs. Heinrich. I believe that there has definitely been a breakdown in trust. I believe that I prefer to be part of a group that was professional and didn't even have to have these conversations like this in a public forum, that had them more team building in a retreat where everyone participated. I feel like there are several of our principles and standards that we could use reminders of, particularly in the area of modeling, in the area of communications, and in the area of really striving towards positive working relationships. And I think folks kind of danced around that, touched on it. I'm just going to say it. There is a direct correlation between positive communications and working relationships and high-performing school districts, period. I want to be part of a high-performing school district. I don't want to be part of drama. I don't want to be part of a show. I want to work professionally, and the only way that can happen is if we are consciously, purposefully working toward positive working relationships. And we can't do that if we're not communicating. And I disagree with one point. I believe that sometimes maybe those communications need to be forced because we can't continue not communicating. Not communicating will continue to disrupt positive work. And so I believe that we need to force those communications. And that's probably why we're having this discussion now. Tiptoeing around stuff is not helpful. Because again, there is a strong correlation between strong, positive working relationships, not friendships, not, we don't have to all hang out, but we need to be able to communicate and talk in a professional manner. And where that's not happening, that's not going to be good for our school district. It's not going to be good for kids. And it becomes a distraction. And I've been on this board for a long time, and I've seen a lot of distractions. And I try very hard to avoid all of them. You won't hear me being part of a story. You may hear some stuff, I'm not going to speak on it because I do not want to participate in a circus. That's all I have to say.
Mr. Rich?
I agree with a lot of what Ms. Weems said. I think one important thing that we've said before and we'll say again, it doesn't need to be a 7-0 vote. It just doesn't. And we should be able to have healthy discussion on things while at the same time understanding that we as a board need to be moving in the same direction, which is the improvement of this district, because that's what we need to be doing for our students, for our staff, and for all of our stakeholders. And so, it's the difference between a healthy discussion where we not necessarily agree on ideas, but at the same time not have any personal attacks used when discussing and debating those ideas. And that's how our district is going to continue growing. It's how we as a board continue working together and actually move forward. I don't want this conversation, to have to go on longer than it does. Frankly, we have business as a board to do, and this in itself can be a distraction. And so what we need to figure out is, okay, moving forward, we need to just understand we're not all gonna like each other personally. It's just not happening. And trying to say that we will just gets in the way of it. And it's putting false intentions in front of our actual actions and intentions of making sure our district is moving in the right direction. And so, frankly, that's what we need to be focusing on.
Ms. Heinrich?
I just want to pick up on what Ms. Weems said about highly functioning, high-performing school district. And one of the things to have a high-performing school district is to have a highly functioning Board of Education. And a highly functioning Board of Education attracts and retains quality superintendents. And as a board, my goal is to stop the revolving door of superintendents. And in order to have a highly functioning school district, you have to have a high-performing school district. You have to have a relationship between the Board of Education and the superintendent where we sit down with the superintendent and we're able to have conversations. We're able to respect confidentiality. We want the superintendent to be able to trust all of his board members to share confidential information and know that it will stay within the board. It will not be disseminated to the community. And to be able to have this conversation about the direction we want the school district to go and have the superintendent comfortable in having a relationship with us and having a relationship with him so that we can retain a highly functioning superintendent. And that's the thing that is going to, when we talk about student achievement, when we talk about student test scores, every time you change leadership, everything resets and it goes back. It's climbing up the wall of the well. You go up and then you slip down, and then you go up a little bit more and then you slip down. And that's what happens every time there's a change in leadership, and there's a breakdown in communication and there's a breakdown in functioning. And so for us to sit here and commit to, not talk the talk, but walk the walk. And so, put aside our personal differences and bring our positive intentions to, as Mr. Rich said, eliminate these distractions and get on with the business of the board.
Yes, Ms. Smith.
I totally agree with what Mr. Rich said. The problem is that we are a board, that we were all trained, that a 7-0 can be just as bad as a 4-3. We all have our own opinions because you got 7 different personalities here. And at the end of the day, as he stated, we are here for these students. But when someone does not agree, you should not go in as doing a pecking order. And that's what has been done. Many of us were elected because we want to be here for the students. But there were people that had an agenda to do other things. So at the end of the day, as I always say, I'm here for these children. Relationships, those are earned. You can't expect someone to come in and respect you if you have not shown that respect yourself. So you can't come in and say, well, I expect somebody to speak when you've had an agenda yourself. So my thing is, do I want a relationship with the superintendent? Yes, but the superintendent also has to learn to listen too. The relationship, there is no such, as far as things leaking out, which has just been stated, I've been accused of leaking things. I've been accused of filling this room up without anybody asking me, did I do any of the above? Parents have a right. These men that come here every week to our meetings have a right to come and speak up. It doesn't mean someone leaked anything. They have a right to speak up. They have a right to write into this board. But when things don't go the way you want them, then there's a pecking order in a group that does not want to work with others. And as I stated, I'm here for children. I have family and I have friends. I don't need that. We started out okay, but now that it is torn, instead of focusing on that, focus on our children. Our children are struggling. Their test scores are low. We've got race issues. We got all this stuff going on, and then all you want to do is talk about being friends. And inchworms and itsy bitsy spiders and E-I-E-I-O. I don't want to do that. I want to do what we do, is work on what we just talked about, getting a new roof. I don't want to do all of that. I want to help these children and these parents. I want to do innovation. No roommates, no friends, no matching tattoos, none of that. Let's just do what we got elected to do. No forcing a relationship, no forcing any discussion. Send me an email and tell me what you need. That's all I have to say about it.
Mr. Walker.
I just simply want to say that the only person I can hold accountable for any of the behavior that takes place anywhere that I am is myself. And my commitment to the work that is done as a part of this board has not changed. There's not a single person in this room whom I can't work with, who I wouldn't be proud and honored to stand by. There's not a single person in this room or on this board who I can agree to disagree with and still walk away and everything is fine. And so my commitment to everyone here is just to simply do the very best I can to work in tandem with everybody here, to support my superintendent in his work, to be honest with him when I agree and when I disagree, but again, to respect his provision and his authority as the superintendent of this school district, and do what I best can in service of this entire district, its parents, of course, its students, and all of the community at large. After that, I have to leave it to everyone else to do as he or she feels is appropriate for him and her. I do agree that the ability to work together through professional communication is something that would make for a greater level of success. And I do not question at all the commitment of anybody here in this half circle for whom they serve in this district whatsoever. And at minimum within that, I believe there is still a wonderful opportunity for us to continue to be successful. I agree with Ms. Smith in that we need to be respectful of our individual wishes, both publicly and privately, and accommodate where we're absolutely able to do so. I think if we're able to do that, we will achieve what Mr. Rich is talking about, and that is making the business of the district the business of the district and this board, and everything else will be placed where it needs to be placed. So to every member of this board, I give you my personal commitment that that's what I am going to do. And I have no problem stating this publicly, that if in any communication or any part of my behavior that I've ever caused any type of an offense, whatever, small or large, if it has not been stated for whatever reason to me, I apologize. Because I don't believe without an apology, without a sincere one, there can never be any kind of healing, professional or personal. And so I want to put that out there, and I welcome any discussion about anything that I do that someone feels is not appropriate. And I promise that I will listen, and I will act on it wherever I possibly can, again, in service of this board and in service of this district.
Yes, Ms. Fox.
So for me, the most thing that I am concerned about, I have no problems in working with each and every one of the board members here. There's been a few little times, we've had a little rough time here and there. I eventually will go forward one way or the other. I am in here for one thing, and that is that I want every student that walks into these schools is to feel that they belong here, and that they are not having to worry about, racial serves and what have you. And so I'm able to vote to work with anybody, that if we're moving in a direction, because if a kid is not feeling like they need to feel in terms of they walk into a classroom trying to learn, a kid can't learn when the kid know when a teacher don't like or somebody or whatever it is. And so my perspective is that I'm here to help every one of you to do what I want to do, and that is to make sure that our kids are able to learn in an environment where they feel as though they belong.
I respect what everybody just said, and I'm reminded by Mrs. Fox that we all have that goal, all of us. I really respect Mr. Walker for his apology. I will offer the same in terms of if I've ever offended anyone, because at the end of the day, I think it's more important to humble myself. And, we've all made a lot of sacrifices for this district. I will continue to do that because I care. And I'm reminded that every one of us cares. And a couple of years ago, we were functioning beautifully. But that was not always the case.
No, it wasn't.
No, it wasn't. We had to work to get to be a functioning board. It doesn't just happen. We all respected our differences. And we recognized that each and every one of us brings something unique and good to this table. And collectively, when we respect one another, that's how we got to accomplish becoming a functioning board. I'm recommitted to redeveloping the trust that we lost so that we can move forward. That's it for me.
And go ahead. I was going to say that, and that's where the retreats, I agree with you, Ms. Fox, this conversation would be much better suited to a retreat, but we needed all 7 voices for this conversation. And so that's why we're having this conversation in this venue, because it takes all 7 of us to do this work. We need all 7. And I needed to make sure that all 7 of us would be part of this conversation. Every single voice, as Ms. Weems just pointed out, each of us has a unique contribution that we make to this board based upon our prior experience in this district and in our lives and on this board, and all 7 of us, we need all of our voices. So that's why we're having this discussion here instead of at a retreat. My hope is that with the DEI work that we're going to do, that we can, all of us, because that's where we do that important team building that creates the strong foundation on which we can continue to do this work as a board of 7. And as so many of you have already pointed out, the common ground that we stand on together is our commitment to our students. That is the one thing that we unquestionably share. That is the one place where we absolutely, all 7 of us, agree. So my hope is that going forward, we can stand on that common ground together. And despite what has gone before, despite our differences, start anew, begin anew, and build from there. Mr. Rich?
I was just going to say, I would request that if anyone has any other thoughts on this, to please share those as kind of closing remarks, and then just out of respect to the people who've been waiting for almost 3 hours to do public comment, that we move on to that.
I can't hear you.
Sorry, it was just any closing comments that people might have on this, please do those. And then just out of respect to the people who have been here for almost 3 hours to make public comment, that we move on to that.
I have a question. Do we feel as a board that we need to engage in any kind of restorative practices? At our last retreat, we heard from some of our own restorative practices facilitators in the district about what that kind of process looks like, for our students. Might that be something helpful to us? Or is there more of a feeling of let's just let bygones be bygones and start anew? What are your thoughts on that?
I just think we need to focus on these kids.
Okay.
And let this kumbaya stuff alone and let these people speak. They've been here too long waiting. I'm just ready to take care of these students. The trust with me is gone. So let me just do what I do for kids, and let's just move. When you say move forward, Cheryl, your thing is move forward and let's hug it out and be friends. It's beyond that now. I think that we should just do what we do best for children and be professional and take care of what we need to do and have the communication around the students. Because you have a tendency of misunderstanding what moving on means. And I don't want to give you any false anything thinking that, we're skipping down the road tomorrow. So we can move forward for the students of this community.
Okay. Any other final? Okay. There's a quote I came across, just the very end part is, this thing we call failure is not the falling down, but the staying down. And what impresses me most about our board is that we're not staying down. We've gotten off track, and we are, all of us, committed, as we've expressed here this evening, to doing what we each can to rebuild our ability to collaborate. That doesn't mean we have to skip down the road. That doesn't mean we have to be best friends, but that we are willing to stand on the common ground of our commitment to our students and work together. Thank you. All right, now it is time for yes, go ahead. Yes, absolutely.
So I don't want to belabor the conversation, but I appreciate making this a discussion item. So ideally, yes, Ms. Fox, this conversation should happen at a retreat. That's why we have the retreats, but not everybody comes to the retreats. And so we had to have this conversation this year, or I'm sorry, this meeting. So when I came here 3 years ago, I asked a huge ask of the board. I had a huge request of the board, is not just to do the typical one retreat where you acclimate a new superintendent, but to commit to quarterly retreats to rebuild. Because I came into this job with eyes wide open, knowing some of the past dysfunction of this board, not all members included. And I came into this job knowing that healing needed to happen. That's what you told me in my interview. That's what the community told me. So you committed to these quarterly retreats. And in the first 2 years, we did an amazing job of being vulnerable with each other, setting goals, talking about board operating procedures and how you want to leave a legacy for boards to come, and really improving this. You may recall you all were one of the first certified boards in recent history, at least here, and so there was a lot of proud work. Things happened, and something big happened in October 22. And I'm not going to get into all the details surrounding the election, but that's when this relationship changed. And the relationship changed with me, the relationship changed with some of our board members, because we were put in a precarious situation to have to address a situation with the community. Since then, things have unraveled. So let me just cut to the chase here. The national average for superintendent tenure is 2.3 years in the United States. I'm at 2.8 right now. The reason superintendents leave is because of board dysfunction. The reason superintendents leave is because of the lack of board governance and adherence to their own bylaws, their own policies, their own protocols. The reason superintendents leave, and the reason that sometimes there's this turnover, is because there isn't this desire to collaborate genuinely. And so there was a question posed, what do we need? What do I need? Well, here's a few things that I need. I need our board to strictly adhere to our governance model, the model that the Michigan Association of School Boards recommends, that you agreed to. I need our board members to be advocates in the community and liaisons for this school district, not adversaries. I need board members not to actively work against the interests of this board and this district. We can say we're all about the students, and we are, but our actions need to show that and demonstrate that. I need board members not to intimidate staff members. I need board members not to confront students. I need board members to maintain confidentiality. When I send something to a board member, to all 7 board members, I have to have confidence that that is going to remain confidential. It has not been the case. I have seen confidential memos that I sent to this board show up on social media sites. Not accusing, but somebody leaked it. I need that confidentiality. And I need us all, myself included, to presume positive intent. And that's a cute buzzword, but if you really presume positive intent, when a board member sees something on social media about an incident that happened in a classroom, you presume that there's more to the story. You give your superintendent and my team time to investigate that and communicate the facts to you. You presume that positive intent. And when I share facts with you, you're entitled to your own opinion, not your own truth, not your own reality. And there have been several examples where that leap to judgment has occurred. And so those are some of the things that in your partnership with me as your superintendent, and I want to be here. I've dedicated my career to this district, the district that I live in. I want us to get back to where we were 2 years ago. And I think we can, but we all have to commit to coming back together. Premier school districts help students achieve at high rates. We talk about the amount of people who don't attend this school district. We have over 1,600 families who are residents of Farmington, Farmington Hills, who do not come to our schools. You think that the past disruption and the drama doesn't contribute to that? It absolutely contributes to that. We hear from realtors who want to talk about our schools. And yes, we're still working on improving scores. But people don't want to come live here. They don't want to buy a house here if they look at the schools and they see this kind of dysfunction. You were in such a good place. We were in such a good place 2 years ago. And I think for the future of this district and the stability of this district, we need to get back there. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. And again, that doesn't mean we have to be friends. It just means we have to be willing to honor our board agreements, presume positive intent, come to our retreats, come to our board meetings, and do this rebuilding work that we so need.
So, Dr. Delgado, what do you think that you could have done something within the last couple of years better? I mean, you've just told us what we could possibly, what could you do better?
Yep, I can continue to do more outreach. You and I have had conversations about the past positive relationship with the City of Farmington Hills and Farmington City Councils. I could do a better job. I can do a better job of extending an olive branch and partnering with both of our cities. I'm committed to doing that as well. You know, I can do a better job. I think I communicate fairly well, but I can try to give more details to our board members so you have all the information, so you understand the background. I think sometimes that's been brought up, I think even in my evaluation, is we'd like a little bit more follow through after you inform us. I've been told you inform us very promptly of there's an incident at a school, but then what about the follow-up? What happened? What was the result of that? And sometimes if you as a board member don't have that information and a community member sees you in Kroger, they want to know what happened in this situation, you don't have all the information. So I think I can get better at that as well. You know, we together need to partner with community groups. I'm saddened and I'm disappointed that our relationship with FAAPN is not the same as it was. And so I can do a better job to try to reach back out to FAAPN and try to reach to different areas of our school district to reestablish and rekindle that relationship. So I'm part of this 8-member team, and that's where we do the work. Is we do the work at our retreats, we do the work now. So, and I'm open to suggestions. If you or any other board member have any suggestions of what you think I need to do to help solidify this district, I'm all in with you. But it needs to be a team of 8.
And the trust building and the collaboration building, that happens largely at the retreat. And so I put that out there that I hope that we can all go back to being together at the retreats where we can continue to build that foundation together.
Dr. Delgado, you do know that I will be virtual on the 8th.
I am aware. Ms. Mayberry talked to me about that, and so that is permissible, and I've already talked to Mr. Smith. We have a DEI training, and I know you'll attend it virtually, so thank you for that.
But I'm so glad that you're going to be joining us.
Don't do that, please, because that is a way of calling me out in the community by saying, I'm happy that you'll be there. I had already talked to Dr. Delgado, because Dr. Delgado and I did have a conversation regarding DEI.
I know.
Regarding situations that are taking place in this district. And not only did we have to, we not only discussed doing it with the community, but with this board. Just like tonight. That's what the discussions are about. I made sure I had that conversation with her to let her know there was no way that I was going to ask him to put this in place and not show. Now, why I have not been coming is because you keep moving that goalpost with me, and my weekends are important to me. I refuse to sit anywhere from 9 to 3 to sit through a tribunal. And it's nothing against Dr. Delgado. So what I'm saying is that see, it's comments like that, Cheryl, that you should have just left it alone. You should have left that alone. You didn't have to go and let the public know, well, I'm happy that you'll be there.
Okay,
Those are the
my apologies.
Yeah, okay, I accept that, but that's what I'm saying. It's comments like that. That should have not even been discussed. You should have just let it ride. Dr. Delgado said we're doing this on the 8th. That's it. But you just keep digging and digging and digging. I don't know if you all are waiting on for me to just show up and show out. I don't know what you're looking for, but I'm not going to do it. But what I'm going to do is express that, yes, I have been treated differently. And it's because of the current leadership, not you, Dr. Delgado, but the current leadership. When I asked to be left alone in November, when my brother took his life, you continue to just keep digging and digging and digging. I still have not mourned him. So at the end of the day, you should have just left that comment right where it was, let these people read their comments, and let go.
Thank you, Ms. Smith, and again, my apologies. All right, moving into public comment, we have Brittany Peralt.
Good evening. My name is Brittany Peralt. I'm a second-year teacher, and I teach 5th grade at Beachview. FEA President Chris Dianchi asked me to speak to you tonight about an incredible opportunity I recently had through the Michigan Education Association. Some may not know that the MEA is not only a union and a professional association for current and retired educators, but also for aspiring educators. This includes college students in teacher preparation programs, as well as students in middle and high school. In March, the MEA, in partnership with Wayne State University, hosted the first annual Educators Rising Conference, where middle and high school students participated in competitions around education and attended sessions on what it is like to be an aspiring educator and a current educator. I was lucky enough to judge the public speaking portion of the program, where students spoke about the need for more educators as we are in a teacher shortage. Students gave thoughtful suggestions on what we and our society can do to spread the word that teaching is a wonderful and important profession. Over 800 students were in attendance for this conference from all over the state. But one thing they had in common, they all wanted to be educators. It gives me the chills. Doesn't that give you the chills too? In a time where we need passionate and dedicated educators, we are truly growing the next generation of educators without even knowing it, including right here in FPS. While we only had a few representatives from Farmington, I know that we as a district will continue to do everything we can to provide opportunities and experiences to help inspire students to join our ranks. I'll leave you with this. At the conference, Governor Gretchen Whitmer, MEA President Chandra Matafari, and Michigan Teacher of the Year Candace Jackson all shared the same message. Teaching is the noblest of professions, and we are committed to providing every opportunity to join us in the most rewarding career, starting with our youngest aspiring educators, our middle and high school students. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Bill Lovaway.
Good evening. I'm a member of your team too. Your team isn't 8 people, it's a whole community. And that's one of the reasons that I have been working for years now on developing an educational plan. I feel that you don't reach out to your community adequately, and what you do is doesn't make any difference. You know, you might as well talk to a brick wall sometimes, and sometimes you ought not to talk at all. That's me. The education plan, I've discussed with 5 of the board members already. I'd be glad to discuss it with any other board member who'd like to call me up. I'm sure you got my phone number. So my big issue started with a focus on education in the kids, and that particularly goes with the learning gaps for the African American kids and the poor kids. And I don't think we can teach them. And furthermore, I don't think we've made a real attempt to teach them because we haven't made any progress. Now, here's my problem. Maybe you have made attempts. Maybe you've got the solution. I haven't heard about it, and our community hasn't heard about it. So that's a part of the education plan was, let's communicate more with our community, and let's involve them more in our processes. And I think that'll be, that'll help some of the problems that we have here. Because I think some of the board members here are different things from the community, and I'm not sure those go anyplace. So the big thing that Eugene and I have been pushing on was the reading, and in particular the gaps on the African American and the poor kids, with the intent that once we got that fixed, we could go to work on the rest of the district and raise our overall performance and become the excellent school district that I think we were when I came into the district in 1975. So, like I said, what Cheryl mentioned it. I think you ought, if you're doing a bunch of good stuff, well, who the heck knows it? Your community doesn't know it, and at best you get a flyer from the district saying, here's some activity or another. That's nothing to do with the decision. We've lost like a quarter of our school population because we haven't communicated with them. So if we're doing good stuff, who cares? They don't know it. So anyways, I don't want to kill the educational plan. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you. Henry Francis, Mr. Henry Francis.
Good evening, board members. My name is Henry Francis. I'm captain of Team 3414, the Hackbots, the district's United Robotics team. As you may have heard, Dr. Delgado actually mentioned this at our last board meeting. The Hackbots won the Team Sustainability Award at the world level this season, which means we develop sustainable practices both for our environment and for the longevity of our team, which we are very, very proud of. And with this, we are really proud to say that we are sure that our longevity is well cemented. And with that also comes the longevity of our outreach programs, such as doing things like FAAPN tutoring, but we also bring in various groups, such as the FAAPN students on Saturdays occasionally to do robo-camps, as well as 1832 special education students. And with this, we have run into the issue that we are currently bursting at the seams in terms of the space we have. I've been with this team since 2015 when my sister joined, 2014 really, and since I saw her join, I unfortunately have not seen major improvements to the space that the robotics team has, other than things that are already covered in bond work set up by the district, such as a renovation of our shop's floor. We have actually lost space recently due to our robots having to be more and more competitive, and that involves us not being allowed to use certain carpeting, as our robots will ruin that in our school. And it is for that reason that we are in a state of need for a new STEM facility, and that would not only work to serve the Hackbots, but we are looking to help serve every underrepresented community who does not have proper access to STEM. I recently had a conversation with teachers at the Visions Unlimited building, which we are going in this month to do a robot demo with them. And one of the biggest things for them is they don't have access to a proper means of STEM education at their school. They recently did get a wood shop, however, it is very limited and they don't have a lot of experience nor the necessary teaching in order to work with it. And that is just one of the many examples of why that STEM facility would be necessary. So I'm hoping that you will consider that in your future discussions. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Paul Steele?
Good evening. A couple weeks ago, I was kind of curious how other local school boards conduct business, and I had a little spare time on my hands, so I went to the internet like everyone does and did a quick search. So I put together a list. Following school districts, they all meet pretty much the same criteria. West Bloomfield Schools, Rochester Community Schools, Livonia, Birmingham Public Schools, Bloomfield Hills, Huron Valley. Most likely is a lot more local school districts that meet the same criteria, but you know, that's all I could confirm in the 40 minutes or so that I was looking at these. So what do they all have in common? Every one of those school districts, when they release their agenda for the upcoming board meeting, usually a couple days before the meeting, they also post all or at least most of the relevant documentation that goes along with it, that the presentations, things like that. For several years, Farmington did the same thing. For some reason, this year you chose not to release any of the information until after the meetings, if you release it at all. Admittedly, I know you're under no legal obligation to do so, so I'm not suggesting you're breaking any laws or even violating your own board policies, because as far as I can tell, you're not. But just because you're not required to do something doesn't mean it's not the right thing to do. A few years ago, after one of the board's many self-inflicted chaos events that you put out there, I communicated with a few of you via email. A couple of you acknowledged that there was definitely a lack of trust between the board and the community, and you wanted to work to build trust again. Withholding information from the community, even temporarily, is not a good way to build trust. I'd like to make one suggestion, though. So towards the beginning of most of your meetings, you usually read a statement about this being a meeting held in public, and one of the statements reads in part, "These board meetings are held in public for the purpose of full transparency." I think it'd be wise to change it to, "These board meetings are held in public only because we're required to do so." I think that'd be a much more accurate statement.
Next, we have Dr. T.R. Carr.
Thank you. My name is T.R. Carr. I have a couple of comments. One is about tutoring. I was privileged to tutor this last weekend. A young student in third grade, after an hour and a half of language arts tutoring, then she wanted to play some games. We played Uno, we played Go Fishing, quite a few other things, but she really benefited from the hour and a half of time I spent with her working on language arts. That reminds me of the importance of tutoring in the school district. It should be something beyond just on a Saturday morning and just beyond having a few high school students, tutoring a few high school students during the day. A young man named Alexander was tutored pretty effectively several centuries ago. He became known as Alexander the Great. He was tutored by Aristotle. When he wrote Diogenes, he said, were I not Alexander, I would be the Greek philosopher Diogenes. Tutoring changes lives. Tutoring helps students to excel. So I would call upon this board to investigate the policies of allowing tutoring to occur during the school day with tutors available to assist teachers. We have quality teachers, but our students have intense needs, and we can meet those needs on a personal basis. So that's a call that I would make to the school board. A second issue, you've talked about communication. You've talked about openness. I call again upon the school board to open its committees, the Committee of Finance, the Committee of Policy, the Committee of Communication, to make those open so that people can attend. We cannot attend those meetings. Those meetings are secret. And when you make decisions in secret, how can we know, how can we trust, how can we be part of the team that really grows and supports this school district? So it's really critical, I think, for a school district to be open, for a school district to be transparent, and for school board members to be transparent. When you meet and talk about finance issues, it's nice for us to be able to sit and hear and listen. When you talk about policies that are under consideration, it'd be nice for public to be able to sit and hear and listen what you're talking about, because you represent us. And so long as we don't know what you're doing, what you're saying, how can we have confidence? The goal of this school district, the goal of this school board is to instill confidence and faith in the process and in the output. And it's time, I believe, for the school district to be open, to be transparent, and to welcome parents, to welcome the business community in, to see the decisions that are being made, to have access to that data. That's a call, two calls, tutoring and open and transparent meetings. Thank you much.
Thank you, Dr. Carr. Next, we have Chris Dianchi.
Good evening, everyone. Last Friday, the Student Roundtable put on a career fair at North Farmington High School. We had around 400 students attend. I had a couple people who were great in helping us put it on. I wanted to say thank you for to the Student Roundtable for including educators in this. And I wanted to thank Dr. Delgado for making sure that we could get some of our elementary teachers time to attend the career fair to talk about this viable profession that we love and try and attract some of our own students to come back to us. It was really nice seeing Mamie Giller from Hillside and Rasheen Hunter from Wood Creek came to speak, and there were a number of former Bears and Huskies in the auditorium or in the gym who would see their former teacher and come up and give them a hug. And we talked to them about things that we are doing to attract underclassmen to the career of teaching. And we have some things specifically for seniors that we wanted them to know before we go off to college. You had the opportunity to hear from Brittany tonight. She is fabulous. What she didn't tell you about the aspiring educators is when she went to Michigan State, she was the president. So she had done a lot of work prior to joining us in Farmington in moving the career of education forward, and she actually was able to provide through her connections with aspiring educators a lot of giveaways for our students so they could visit the table and take some stuff home with them, in addition to information that will help them in college if they're interested in following along this career path. So I just wanted to say thank you for including us. It was a wonderful experience. We hope to grow that, and we hope to continue to grow our own educators here in Farmington, so hopefully they can come back and join us. We have a number of Farmington graduates that teach in Farmington right now. That was one of the most amazing things when I started at North Farmington High School. There was a page in the student planner that listed all of the North Farmington alumni that were teachers at North Farmington High School who could talk about their experiences at North. So you can hear someone like Jeff Simpson, who's retiring this year, talk about the end of his career, which actually started as a student at North Farmington. And we hope to continue that tradition and bring more students back to us. So I want to thank you again, Dr. Delgado and Student Roundtable, for including us. We look forward to doing it next year, too.
Thank you. Next, we have Eugene Greenstein. Mr. Greenstein.
Good evening. I wasn't planning on talking. Anyway, one can spend a lot of time talking about building high-performing organizations, but let's talk about
literacy, and math. And the fact that we don't have yet clear goals that are written down that says we're going to be in the top 10 or the top 5 or maybe the top 1 in 5 years in reading and math. So Dr. Delgado can't do his job if he doesn't know what the goals of the taxpayers are. As a taxpayer, I want to know that we're going to be the best so that those 1,600 families are coming here. And yes, you guys may have dysfunction, but till we have clear goals that I and my other taxpayers that hit the key issues that we as citizens of this community want our children to have so that they can be successful, they can have high esteem, they can go out in the workplace and not be in prison because they can't read. And that we got 6th through 12th grade, that we aren't putting away the money to have individual tutoring, as was talked about by TR a moment ago, so we can make a difference. And we know it can make a difference because Bill Lobaway and I went and met with an organization that's helping Detroit to make a difference, and we saw the data. And Detroit has got all the problems and then some, but they're making improvements. We can make those improvements even better, but we have to focus on the objectives and not the cosmetics. And that's the problem of the last 2 years. And I don't like to bitch unless I do my homework. And I think everyone knows that I've gone into a lot of homework on literacy and what it means to do a better job in literacy. And we're seeing, I know that Kelly has implemented a number of those things, not as fast as I would like. That's a different issue. But till we have clear goals, and that doesn't mean we have to make the goal. We just need to know what we have to do in terms of problem solving to make ourselves better if we didn't make it. Because everybody wants to do a good job. But we don't, if the answers were simple, they wouldn't need us, right? So let's get clear goals, constructive goals. Then let's work together to meet those goals. Thank you.
Mr. Thomas Hull?
Good evening, everyone. What I just witnessed, I don't know, was it 20 minutes ago? It was well, to me personally looking at it, it's like looking at your parents fighting, okay? It was so embarrassing, to just see that was out and displayed to the public like that. I know from the feel of the audience, we're like, are they really having this discussion right now and it's taking this long to go through? We got to stay focused. We got to stay focused on what's important, and the important is the children. Nothing else matters. I prefer that everybody come with their own individual personalities, but you need different people for different things, period. Everybody cannot be the same. I don't want everybody to be the same. I have different friends, different type of friends, and I want them to stay like that. I believe I have a relationship with every single one of you guys. I don't try to switch you guys to be like somebody else, okay? But I don't want you guys like that. I don't want that to get in the way of progress, though. I really don't. And I've seen too much. I've been through so many things, and like I said, when I see things like that, then I go to the tutoring, and it's a total different. All that stuff is just set aside, okay, to all this different bickering. But everybody still bring their own personalities. But we got to stop that. We got to really stop that, and we put it on display here for the whole world to see. This is not good. Second thing is public comment. We need our public comments moved up, period, okay? I'm pretty sure everybody else don't want to have to come through and sit through literally about 3.5 hours just for our voices to be heard, because, to to be frankly, my Chipotle is getting cold at house, in the home. So I need to go home and eat. And I appreciate you guys, giving us the time to speak, but this has got to stop. And one of the suggestions I always say is that y'all been sitting at these seats too long. When I say that, meaning individually, y'all been at these seats too long, because it's like a tennis match. Boom, 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 boom. And you guys start to come together at one side and the other. We got to stop. That's all my comment. Thanks.
Are there any further public comments? Seeing no other public comments, public comment is now closed. Moving on to the consent agenda. Yes, Ms. Weems.
I move that we approve the consent agenda, which includes the approval of minutes from the April 23rd regular meeting and the April 24th special meeting, the April 24th closed meeting, the April 24th special meeting, and the second April 4th closed session meeting, and also the May 2nd Finance and Facilities Committee.
Support.
A motion to approve the consent agenda by Ms. Weems, supported by Mr. Rich. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes. Do we have any reports this evening from board representatives?
I have one. The Student Roundtable had their career fair Friday, May 3rd, North Farmington High School, last Friday. They were 2 years in planning this, and so a shout out to the students and a shout out to Dr. Delgado and the principals for really making this happen. All three high schools, the students were attended from Farmington, North Farmington, and Farmington Central, although it was located at North Farmington High School. Farmington High School and Farmington Central provided transportation. It was well represented. There were 35 booths there. In addition to that, there was workshops on resume writing and interview skills. The kids had a nice program that they put together. They had a scavenger hunt with a prize. I don't know what they gave out for prizes. So I'm looking forward to hearing their report on the meeting. So the things that they learned from it and the things, and hopefully this is something that they really wanted to establish this student roundtable as a legacy and, build the foundation for this to happen again. So it's just really nice to see our students so excited about their futures and so, interested in learning about what is out there, and it's just a shout out to all the community members and businesses and parents for really supporting our students. So thank you.
Thank you. With nothing further, we are adjourned.